we're going to go ahead and call the workshop to order. I'm going to turn it over to David.
All righty. Well, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. We're here to discuss how to go about spending our money that we have in our 1-cent sales tax for roads, and also some impact fee dollars, as well as some other just general discussions on roads. The reason that we've waited so long is we kind of waited to see how everything flushed itself out through the year, as well as how well we did in other areas, and now it's time to go ahead and move to start some of the work. We've got quite a few possibilities that Cleve is going to be going over with, some scenarios for a lot of different areas. So with that, Cleve, if you want to get us started off, and to set the tone, we have $300,000 in the 1-cent sales tax for repaving of roads or paving of roads. We have $100,000 in striping, which can be combined, and we also have $104,000 in some change in road impact fees that could be used for anything that for growth, such as a turn lane or repaving or paving of a road, etc. So that gives you the background of what we're looking at.
That's in the bank today, right?
That's in the bank.
What about
today.
future revenue?
This doesn't assume any future revenue. This is just.
I mean, we're going to have 1-cent sales tax at least in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's right. And we're not talking about that today. We're talking about what we're going to do this year, today.
With the money only the money we have
we've
in
got
the bank
today. That's right. And that's what we've got right now. We're not talking about what we're going to do next budget year. This is about what we're going to enact.
That's 14, 15.
That's right. This is 13, 14. 13, 14. What we're going to start working on, because what we'll do is after this is we'll get some general consensus to you guys, and then we'll bring it back up to the board for official ratification, and then we'll move forward with bidding a project out, whatever that is. Okay, Cleve?
Okay, if you looked over the agenda item, I guess the first thing we got, we have some board directions on what roads to pave, and again, we got $300,000, and $300,000 I guess the easiest thing to do is go to the second page of the agenda item, and these are the roads that we feel like we have board directions to pave. This board, previous boards, even boards a couple terms ago have there may be some roads that we're not aware of that was promised by previous boards, but these are the roads that we are aware of that given directions to pave.
Are these, Cleve, I'm sorry, are these the ones with right-of-way? I mean, we didn't include Cooperwood, which obviously should be in there, but that's roads without right-of-way, right? These are just ones that are ready to go.
These are the ones that are ready to go. If we get into the right-of-way issues, we don't do anything. The biggest thing was...
Can I follow up on that for a moment, Cleve? Sorry to interrupt. But on Cooperwood, is your understanding that if we did have right-of-way, that would be the #1 road?
I don't know if it'd be #1. I'm fixing to pull up the list here, but there's a lot of roads on there that the board approved that don't have right-of-way. Mount Zion, I think, Zion Hill Road, I think maybe one of them. Old Bethel was one, but it finally got resolved. But there are a bunch of roads approved in the past, of course.
And but I guess the biggest thing is that Wakulla Gardens was going to be our next target area to start paving what we call loop roads, but just try to get a paved road into the central part of a unit and allow your feeder roads to come to that and to give better access at least down to the street that you lived on. And there's 5 units in Wakulla Garden, and you can see, starting with unit 1, is at $165,000 a mile. Just to do unit 1 paving is $330,000, which exceeds what we have available to pave by $30,000 this year. Then we get into unit 2, $188,000. Unit 3, because obviously if you look back, there's a handout you should have that will show what the scheme of the paving we propose based on the money that we have. And the thing we kind of varied from the previous board directions, instead of having loop roads, we paved feeder arterial roads into the units, so the side roads can feed into it. And they're not true loop. Everybody got a copy of the?
Mine's in black and white, so I'm looking at Jerry's.
It seems that Unit 1, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it seems like the Unit 1 that serves the most people.
And again, when we get down to this, it's just a matter of what directions we want to go, because obviously, as you move on down the list, Unit 2, Spokane and Blackfoot, we just make a small loop around there to pick up some roads, and in Unit 3, in Unit 4. And we need to find out if this is the board's priority to continue to try to do something in Wakulla Gardens. And roads that have been approved in the past: Emily Lane, McKenzie Park, that's it. If you're down in Sop Choppy, as you going down Park, as you come out the city limits of Sop Choppy, it turns into a dirt road. It's called McKenzie, that goes all the way out to 319.
Is that in the city limits, Cleve?
It's just outside the
It's
city.
just outside the city limits.
It becomes McKenzie at the city limit lines.
I also want to add one thing about that the county does spend a lot of regular time maintaining that road.
And that would be what we've tried to do over the last several years. Is when we pave a road that loops around and connects another paved road. McKenzie and Park, well, that would be a good one. That it would tie a road from Rose Street all the way around to 319. It'd be a paved road, and that park, and there's lots of citizens live back there. That would give them, and we do. That is a high maintenance road due to the high volume of traffic.
Cutoff road is the one in Shell Point, but that's pretty much off the table because of the refuge.
Well, that was a. It was a road that during a discussion item in the past had come up as being one to pave, and some of these roads, I'll go ahead and if we want to look at alternatives to some of these roads that may not be best to pave, like Cutoff Road and Emily Lane in McKenzie. Although McKenzie, to me, is will serve the community better, but Emily Lane and Cutoff Road, if we go into and stabilize the road with Lime Rock base, that would help tremendously, especially on Emily Lane.
I'm kind of inclined towards Emily Lane, to be honest with you, because it does go to Old Shell Point, which does go eventually to Cooperwood, and we do have 60 feet of right-of-way there, right?
Yeah, but we dead into Old Shell Point Road, and we got a real issue of where to put the water, because right there at the very end, that piece of property is where all the water.
I'm not talking about dead end in Old Shell Point Road. I'm leaving it where it is, but then people trying to get from Cooperwood over could then come out Emily Lane on a paved road and get out to 61.
And again, if a bigger picture, that's correct, that it would be good, but I'm not sure that's one of from Emily Lane back over into Cooperwood, that one section is where we got the very least amount of right-of-way.
Any of these done in-house, or these all these numbers are assuming contracted out?
They're all being contracted out. This is sound like a broken record to David Edwards. We don't have we're down on grader fleet.
He wants the 5 graders back.
And we would have to tie up the graders to get the work done. So this would be utilizing our road prep contractors. We have a contractor a gentleman under contract for that. And
how many graders do we have now? Just one wondering.
3.
3. Okay.
I'd like to get the ones done that were promised. Cutoff Road, I don't think is realistic to do it, but
I want to add that the McKenzie Park is one that definitely would serve a lot of people, especially during different times of year. But there's a lot of people that travels that road back and forth to the park, and it would also, as far as economy, it would also help the economy there in Sop Choppy to get more exposure to that area.
Before we get too deep into discussion, we're going to propose an option here. But you looked at kind of the roads that need to be that's been promised to be paved. It doesn't mean that if we kind of change direction here, we're not going to pave them in the future, but we list a couple of roads. One of the things that this board and future boards have got to start looking at is that's resurfacing existing paved roads. You know, and I've mentioned this to some of the board members in the past, or in the past meetings, that you've got neighborhoods, you know, like Sohnberg was one of the big developed neighborhoods in this community. Those roads are over 10 years old now. At some point in time, that community, or that neighborhood's going to come in here and say, I want my roads resurfaced. And so we listed some roads now that are in critical shape: Ace House Stables, Andrew Hargett, Wildwood, Lock Landing, Otter Lake roads. These roads are in desperate need of being resurfaced. They will not qualify for scrap and scop programs, so there will be no help there. We're going to talk about scrap and scop at the end of the meeting. So this is going to be up to the county to resurface these roads, and we've got to start thinking about that in the future, how we're going to do. We devote so much time, effort, and money into trying to get the dirt roads improved and paved. But at some point in time, this board, future boards, got to start thinking about how we're going to handle the existing paved roads for development.
And I think in our 5-year plan, wasn't it over $31 million, or was it more than that, of resurfacing? It's a big dollar amount of resurfacing. That goes all the more to the reason of, you know, I think everybody's in lockstep with this, is that, you know, hopefully once we get the 1-cent sales tax renewed, that we not bar against itself. And every year, we can get more done if we do it every year, if we dedicate money to it every year.
I like that approach.
Yeah, you can get more done that way.
But anyway, you got a list of roads that could be resurfaced. But then we get down to one of the things that we get the most complaints right now about at our office, and I'm hearing from board members and David, is striping. And we've got $100,000 to do striping this year, which gets you about 10 miles of road. I got a call from the school bus garage earlier this week about the buses could not stay on the road. There's no lines on the edge lines, no reflectors in the middle. It was foggy, and the buses really got concerned about transporting kids up and down Smith Creek Highway.
Gotten a few calls about it myself.
So have I. I've been getting calls regular. On that particular road, once you come from Leon County into Wakulla County, pretty much everything disappears. The lines, the reflectors, everything. And I've had that's one of the biggest things up there. They're not as much asking immediately about the paving, it's just simply just to have lines on the road. And some of them were told me at nighttime they were literally driving in the middle of the road just because they weren't no lines.
I've been hearing that also, and I've been getting phone calls throughout the county on striping.
But since we've got such a small amount of money to do paving this year, you know, Public Works would suggest, and I've talked to David about this, about pooling the $300,000 in paving and the $100,000 we got in striping to a $400,000, and we could get Smith Creek Highway and several other roads done with reflective paint. We've tried to go to a thermal plastic type striping, but it's just economically we can't afford it.
Even the hot spray, because the paint won't last 5 years probably.
Well, we're going to use a DOT.
Not the extruded
No.
thermo, but the hot spray is midway price, and it lasts a lot longer than paint.
Well, we're using Preble Rich has put some alternatives in their bids to use striping instead of the thermoplastic, and we're basing it on DOT standards. So I guess it is the hot paint. So it's a DOT approved paint.
Hot spray thermo, right?
Yeah.
Thermo. Yeah. Okay. Not extruded.
We did three options. One was the epoxy that we talked to you about, one was the paint, and one was the standard thermo.
But
Your suggestion is to take that money and spend it on road striping instead of paving any new roads.
that's what I would recommend.
I'll go along with that.
Because it's
Desperately need to do that.
we could get Smith Creek Highway is a big big issue, and I said, we could either do that or we can get a mile and a half of road somewhere.
I'm in favor of that because the striping, that's a direct safety concern. Whereas some others, paving a dirt road, that's more convenient, but I think striping's,
Is that reflectors too, or just the spray? Because those reflectors aren't cheap.
We were gonna try to put some reflectors in there, even if we space them out 40 foot apart.
And
There's already some there. I think you could just,
Well,
Add to
that's
it.
where we're gonna try to work this all in one budget. Like I said, we kind of changed directions in preparation of this workshop, and really don't have all our numbers, but this would be to include at least the center line of the road with reflectors.
which I think is much more important than and that's the edge lines and center line on the spraying, right?
Yes, that's what we're
And
doing.
that only one road, I'm sorry, Jerry, just Smith Creek Highway, can you do some other roads?
No,
too?
we
There's some other roads I think we can do
Am I
along
to
with.
understand you're talking about maybe striping and not paving anything?
Correct.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
It would be my thought that someone living on and the school bus also, they tell me that the road base is just chewing their buses up. Ms. Jones says that, like in Wakulla Gardens where we put down the road base, she says that is really chewing their butt. But it would just seem to me that Wakulla Gardens has been waiting for so very, very long that just getting a road paved would be more important than striping a paved road that's already paved. That's just my opinion.
I'm gonna have to disagree. And
Okay.
Okay,
Smith Creek Highway is, I won't
hold it again.
Jerry, if it was in a subdivision, I'd agree with you, but Smith Creek Highway,
That's a true safety
I'm very
concern.
familiar with, is a
I think through
main roads.
we have to take them. We have a liability there. They're in harm's way now. So this is a health and safety issue and concern.
Yeah, but I'm definitely in favor of us, eventually getting the Wakulla Gardens paved.
Absolutely.
But the reason that I was rating the striping a little bit higher was just simply for safety reasons. I would hate for an accident to happen because two cars couldn't see. I would hate for an accident to happen because two oncoming cars couldn't see the lines.
Do you have an idea of approximately how much revenue will generate next year, next budget year?
yes, sir.
Is it something we could look at doing Wakulla Gardens then?
Next year, we will have,
Should go up.
we'll have $800,000 to deal with versus 400.
Okay.
Cleveland.
It should go up the next year after that too, right? Once we pay off
And,
these
well,
paving
it
loans?
stays steady at that, and then it hops up, we'll pay off a loan, and it hops up to about $1 million.
I'd like to attack Wakulla. Let's get through this. We only have a little bit of money. I think the most important thing we can spend it on is restriping it.
Restriping. I agree.
Next year, maybe.
And I agree with the restriping, but what I think we need more discussion on is on which roads are going to be paved, and there are a lot of roads that are waiting for pavement for a long time.
Let me, Howard, if you could, I got the old list here. Let me read you some roads that
Well,
the board voted to pave, just so everybody could.
Okay, and then also, I go back in memory before you read that list, and I think the memory I have is before I was a commissioner and before 2002. And I sat in the audience and I listened to the people specifically from Cooperwood, okay? And with the stories and with the inability of ambulances to get back in there. And that 1 cent sales tax that was passed in large part by people that came to the meetings, such as people from Cooperwood, and I'm saying now this goes back over a dozen years, and that's their expectation. And they've been there for a long time. So I think before we get to actually making a decision of paving any roads, then we have to take a look. I understand the issue of right-of-way, but if things change and that right-of-way is there, I think they deserve to be at the top of that list.
Let me just read a few of these if I could, and I'll tell you when they were approved. Naaman Spears, I don't think that one's paved, is it? That was approved in 1998, Phase 2, District 2. Tiger Hammock was in 1998. It's not gone all the way through yet, most of it. Guy Strickland Road was approved in 98. Old Woodville Highway was approved in 99, looks like. Cutoff Road was approved in 99. Whidden Lake, I think it's That hadn't been done. That was approved in '99. That's no right-of-way. That's all the way from the end, all the way around, I guess. Brim Fountain, that has been done. Old Bethel's been done. Chattahoochee's been done. Otter Creek Road was approved in '99. That's certainly not been done that I know of, is it?
Not resurfaced.
Lawhorn Mill, most of that's
But
been
that's a
it's
paving
paved.
list, that's a paving list.
Paving.
But so I don't,
I'm telling you, when there were roads approved all the way back in 1990
Yeah.
and 1999.
so Otter Lake was done.
Well, not Otter Lake, you said Otter
Otter
Creek.
Creek.
Oh,
There-
Otter
There's
Creek.
two different roads. One, it's Otter Creek, is that down by Nichols Seat, probably.
Right, I got you.
And these next ones were approved in the matrix ranking of 2003. Howard, you remember that one. San Marco's done, Pinewood's done, Old Shell Point Road is done. Cooperwood is not done. Pinecrest and Oakmont were done. Tower Road, I think it's done.
Tower Road is
Yes.
done.
Bud Crum is done, I think. Oyster Bay. Ashley Hall, another very important road. It was ranked number 3, actually, ahead of Cooperwood. It was approved in '03. Gavin Road,
Gavin's done.
done. You're right. Wakulla Gardens was approved by the board sometime. Let's see, Sanders Cemetery is actually on here from the 2003 ranking. I don't think there's any status on it at all.
It's not paved.
No.
That's not-
I mean, it's nothing really worth.
It's been rocked, so stabilized.
That's about it. But that's an example of the roads that were
Yep.
approved in that, because Kirkwood was on there, and you can see that. a lot
Commissioner
of-
Merritt, would you mind forwarding that list to me?
Sure.
I've never, some of the roads I've recognized, I mean, obviously, we worked, Dr. Kessler helped me get lots of the right-of-way on Old Bethel and Gavin, so we're aware of some of those, but I'd like to see, we'd like to have a copy of that list.
I know some of them we just gave up on, like Lonnie Raker North, they just...
Yeah.
I haven't given up on Lonnie Raker.
Well,
Yeah.
they just won't give the property.
Well, maybe and maybe not. That's what they said about Old Bethel.
Right.
So,
Some of them are laying dormant, I should say, like Cooperwood. The surveys have been done, money's been spent for a survey, but you get to a wall, where somebody just says, no, not giving, don't talk to me, I don't want to talk to you.
And we got some ideas about Cooperwood too, so that I'll think will come back in the future.
I know this isn't the purpose of this workshop, but Ashley Hall, obviously, tying County Line Road over to Bob Miller Road. is very-
Wonderful project, wonderful.
Did we make agreements on Old Shell Point, not Old Shell Point, but the one where Spring Creek runs into 267? Did we have any kind of agreements with those folks to put those stop signs up?
Yes,
Texting.
That's Old Shell Point.
Shell Point.
Yeah.
Your board was faced, they either had to go in there and force the issue of the right-of-way, or concede to the citizens that they were concerned about speeding on that road, or lack of enforcement of speeding on that road, and being able to see when you come to those. I will agree, it's probably not the best place to put the stop signs, but the previous board said,
Do what you
I
gotta
don't
do.
know how long Commissioner Merritt worked on it, but I know I've worked on it probably four years on those roads. They've been 8, pushing 10 years and the board said, let's get it done. So that's is it the best, pushing the issue for the right-of-way up there would have been the best thing to do.
Well, it's better than nothing.
Again, you mentioned Miss Jones and her buses. When we got Old Bethel, Gavin, and eventually Old Shell Point, the calls from the bus shop garage dropped. I mean, it's just like somebody, even the complaints from the citizens, it's like you just turned the spigot off, because those roads were terrible.
I think what you needed from us, Cleve, was what to do with that money this year. I think we've all agreed to use it for striping. Right?
Well, that seems to be the general consensus. I haven't heard from Commissioner Thomas yet.
Well, I just have a question. Is that going to solve our problem? And I don't know if we really talked about a list of what roads would be solved with that. And if we spend all of that money striping those roads, are there others? I mean, is this going to be an ongoing problem?
It's something that
It's a maintenance item.
it's something that needs to be addressed a little bit every year, but with Smith Creek Highway, it's 25 miles long and virtually no street lights,
There's no
it's
nothing.
dark. It's just dark out
Oh,
there,
yeah.
and if you have an accident, limited cell service. So to do anything on that road,
Plus, it appears narrow. I don't know if it's more narrow, but it appears.
It's 100 times better than it used to be. When I was
Yeah.
a kid, it was 16 feet wide.
Well, we always drove in the middle of the road back then. If there was no other cars coming.
We laid the middle of the road back then.
It wasn't much wider than that walkway going to the door.
But as we talk about Smith Creek Highway, I want to make sure, Alan, at the end of this discussion, we're going to talk about what we're going to submit for scrap and SCOP this year. And we're going to submit Smith Creek Highway, but it's going to have to be done probably in sections.
No,
And we're submitting it for 4 years from now, essentially. 2019 is when the project will be done, so if we go ahead and stripe the road now, we're still, I mean, to say we're not going to stripe it now because we're going to try to get it done on the scrap or SCOP program, we're 4 years out probably, if it's selected. I mean, no matter what road this county submits for the scrap or SCOP program, DOT picks the roads. It goes in a pool, and I'll let Alec can explain that in a little bit, but compete against other small counties in this district on who has the highest priority road.
It hadn't been all that long ago we did 375, was it?
It, actually, I was talking...
Isn't that long?
We were talking that...
No, it was during the time I've been here.
Yeah.
Well, but back whenever y'all did it, I don't think you did all of 375, did you? I mean, I think it only went to
The county paid to do the part up to the Hardens,
well,
not you, but
the
the county paid out of pocket, and then they paid out of pocket to do the part in Smith Creek, I think, and then the scrap project came back later. That's why that pavement color changes when you hit outside of Sock Choppy.
I think if we begin, if we do the striping, which I hope we do, because that's dear to me, the heart and Smith Creek. But if we can do the striping, I would think we could begin in west and move back east, because that's where really there's just nothing.
Striping, I think he said we could do it once. This is the resurfacing years from now.
Yeah, it'd be, again, like I said...
If you do that striping, Cleve, I know this sounds like a broken record, but if you do that, put those bumpers in the middle of your stripe and don't put them on either side. You lose a foot in each lane when you
Let's
put
do
those.
4-inch wide stripes. Well, I'm thinking about it. Thanks, Jerry, because the 6-inch wide stripes, like you put on 319, also soak up a lot of room too.
Yeah, that's correct. But put those. If you're gonna have to put the bumpers in, put them in the center of your stripe lane.
I would argue with the 4-inch stripe.
Pardon?
I think from a safety standpoint, you need a 6. There's a big difference.
Is that 6-inch stripe still right there at the Mount Beezer Church? Richard, you may remember.
Huh?
You remember on that bridge just past Mount Beezer Church? They put these big wide 6-inch
Yes.
stripes. When you add 6 inches in between, you got 18 inches of...
That's not 6 inches. That's 18.
3 times 6 is 18. You got a double line, 6 in the middle and 6 on the outside.
But the
putting a half
problem
of your
is
roof.
those 4-inch ones look like you're putting duct tape down there.
No, let's let the engineer decide. Is there any way to do anything with Porter Lake Road? I mean, I know, Crowder beat the crap out of that thing back when they were doing 13, right before the 3 bridges
I think
there.
that's where Commissioner Thomas is going, is what other roads could we stripe other than...
No, this is not striping. That road's destroyed.
No, but I think that's where before we start talking about that, am I right, he's wanting to know is what other roads would we possibly do, would we stripe with that money that we've got? If we said, for instance, for Ha-Ha's that 375 took up 200,000, where would we spend the other 200,000?
On your striping table in here for striping projects, we got Smith Creek Highway, Cager Posey, Harvey Mill. I mean, yes, there is other roads that we can to bring back, and we can bring you back a list of the roads that we...
Lonnie Raker, for example, is almost completely wiped out on the north end.
Lonnie Raker is definitely with the high traffic road you're back on that school there. And,
even on my end, it's erased.
Yeah, we could bring back a list of roads. So there will be money left over after we do Smith Creek Highway, but let that be our priority road.
What I was, Clay, you understand I'm talking about on Porter Lake Road, or 13 actually.
Well,
that's it's federal highway, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my understanding that DOT's fixing to resurface that road from from 375 all the way to Liberty County.
Praise the Lord.
It is in bad shape.
It is in terrible bad shape.
Is that already in the work plan now? Have you seen that? I mean, it's not. It's a DOT. It's a DOT project. It's not listed as a county.
Yeah, it's not in. That's right.
Not
It's a
superly
DOT.
heavily traveled road.
I want to also thank Cleve and the Public Works as far as that road of 13. technically, I mean, that is a federal road, and technically, we're only responsible for the first 50 feet apron, but Cleve and his department has been very proactive and very good, that whenever potholes do appear and they're notified, they go out and they've been patching potholes, just for safety's concerned, and I'm just want to thank Cleve for that.
We might ought to put a sign up there that said this is not a county maintained
We got it
road.
up
We got one.
Okay, I know a bunch of people.
But we're running out of...
They don't mow it either, right?
We're running out of material to patch. I mean,
Yes, sir.
The asphalt's just about gone, but
We mow it, don't we, Cleve, or we used to?
we don't, we stop.
Okay.
Now, if we got somebody, a situation like the potholes or something, we'll go over there, because that is a paved road right down, I guess, to the center of the first bridge is, what you call Wakulla County is. We've had conversation with DOT, and it's under DOT work plan, not a Wakulla County's work plan, to get that little section done as a joint agreement with the Forest Service. So yes, so that we can get other roads to restripe, and we'll bring you back a list of what we can get done. If this is, I guess we'll just bring back an agenda item, then we'll list, refocus what we want to do on the agenda item.
Well, I know there's never enough money to go around to do, the maintenance and to pave all the dirt roads. I'm a little concerned that we just keep telling the folks in Wakulla Gardens, we'll get to it, and then we keep spending the money and we never get to it. But I also recognize that it's better to keep what we do have in good repair rather than spend that money on something else that we don't have repair money. So I mean, I'm a little torn on that. I'd almost like to see us come up with a policy where, as that money grows, and it's not a big pot right now, so there's not a whole lot to split up, but as it grows, maybe we could say we're going to do a percentage to restriping, a percentage to paving, a percentage to repaving, and I mean, I don't know, and I know that can change.
That's what we tried, that exact theme. That's the reason we developed in the 5-year plan. We categorized all the roads in that category.
Yeah.
New paving, repaving, and striping, and that's what we're trying to hit. It's just the problem is the number is staggering. You got this much need and that much money.
Right.
But you're right. That's what we're trying to get to, and that's the reason we've actually set it up in our 1-cent sales tax budget, to where we've actually got a repaving line, a new paving line, and a striping line, to where we're trying to go ahead and assign dollars out. Like next year, we've got assigned for repaving $300,000 and new paving $350,000. Striping of $200,000.
Yeah, I'd like to see us. We keep putting Wakulla Gardens. I've been here 4 years, and Wakulla Gardens was on the radar before that. But we just keep putting them down the line, and we keep explaining why we're not doing it, and then we keep sending money in another direction. I'd like to see us just say the next money we get, we'll pave whatever we can agree to in Wakulla Gardens, and just lock that in, is that when the money is available, Wakulla Gardens is next in line.
I think they have that in the agenda item,
Yeah.
Gary, is that their board direction is, the last board direction y'all got was, currently the board's direction for road paving have been the roads in Wakulla Gardens and Emily Lane, both which are on the 5-year plan. So, Wakulla Gardens is number 1 right now, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
For paving.
That's
Paving.
Again, that's based on...
Along with Emily Lane and the one at Stop Choppy and Cutoff Road.
So that's, we quit paving roads when we completed Old Shell Point, and basically Emily Lane, Old Shell Point, Emily Lane, Wakulla Gardens, and Cutoff Roads have come up since we have stopped, paving, having a paving project on target each year or every 18 months of finishing out.
I know this is in the future, but personally, I'd like us to see the Stop Choppy Road done, Emily Road, then next the Wakulla Gardens. But anyway. Because those were promised a long time before. They've been on the books for years. Emily Lane's been on there for years and years and years, since '05.
Dr. Kessler?
Does it serve the most people?
Thank you.
Does it serve a lot of people?
A lot of people down there. I'll show you a map of it.
So, again, there's a lot of roads that need paved. And prior boards have discussed Wakulla Gardens and other roads. And I think that rather than make a statement that this is where we're going to be, I mean, obviously this board does not hold rigid what other boards have done. And I think that as money becomes available, then the discussion should take place where we go with that money. And looking at roads, especially those that may not have right-of-way now, but have it in the future. And are more important as far as arterial roads, maybe more important as far as arterial roads.
Or major or minor collectors, or certainly, because
Exactly.
you remember a lot of money was
Exactly.
blown on local roads
Yep, yep.
that served subdivision.
And again, you know, Old Bethel was very important to get done. Old Shell Point was
Wakulla
very...
Aaron,
Wakulla Aaron. I mean, and now, you know, it's like Lonnie Raker should be finished, okay? And Cooperwood, you know, after we get through this wetland thing, however that shakes out, my priority is getting that right away on Cooperwood.
it's hard for people to believe that the road behind McDonald's was dirt not too long ago.
That's right.
Where it's now, it's really a major corridor.
That was one of the,
Wakulla Aaron.
that was, since I
Remember, it
By
wasn't
dealing with
lined
this-
up, it was skewed off to
dealing
the
with
sides.
this Wakulla County, that was one of the, 1 cent sales tax program, or sales tax has done wonderful things. And Wakulla Aaron, that was you remember how bad it
Yep.
was when it was dirt.
I think another shining example in my mind is Taflinger, where it goes into Magnolia Gardens. It serves a lot of people for not a lot of payment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another road that we didn't make a loop, but when we went in and did Taflinger, the boards gave us directions. Again, it's just like you turned off the water spigot for phone calls every day about Taflinger. And you're asking Annette, she was one of the ones taking the phone calls, but it's just like, it just turned down the complaints. And although we didn't get to pave the rest of the roads in Magnolia Gardens, but it gave you a good road to get back to the streets you lived on.
And Lower Bridge at the time, now Martin Luther King, but it was dirt where it went into Wakulla Gardens there, and that made a huge difference too.
Mm-hmm. So this boils down to a mile and a half that we could pave a new road, which doesn't solve a lot of problems. What's the estimate if, obviously the striping is a safety issue, how many miles is that same amount of money gonna cover?
We're gonna do 40 miles of road,
Okay.
but a big chunk of it be 25 miles out in Smith Creek.
I mean, you know,
I think 40
it's
miles.
it's hard to not see the value in that when you're covering a lot more area and it's a safety issue.
Okay. And this is kind of, if y'all want to move on to, well, we've got one other thing on the agenda too. We're fixing to redo Trice Lane under, is it the scrap?
Hold on just a second, Cleve. Do we have any citizens that want to be heard
I've got 3 or 4.
because we're finishing out this part of it, or we need to let the citizens talk, and then we can grab that one, because that's
I have 3
it's the
citizens.
same, but it's a different topic. It's
Okay.
roads, but different
Right.
topic altogether.
I'm, okay, Mr. Langford?
County Line Road. That's actually all right there. Actually right here.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Dave Lansford from Panacea. I'm a member of the Economic Development Committee for the Panacea Waterfront Partnership. I was asked to look at our evacuation route. The evacuation route handles any traffic from Alligator Point, Ocklackney Bay, and the south part of Wakulla County, mainly because there are places on Highway 98 that get flooded in high water and are open to wave action from the bay, which, as you know, can lift a vehicle off the road. Consequently, I went over the evacuation route, which actually ties into 98 down around Ben Withers Construction Company on Tower Road. Tower Road, then you follow the evacuation route around Tower Road and into Fishing Pool Drive, across Otter Lake Road and across Gerbaloo and into Gerbaloo Circle partially, and then over on to Joe Back Smith Road?
Joe Mack Smith.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, I can't read my own writing down here. I did it while we were driving. There is 6/10 of a mile that is unpaved at the south end of Tower Road. That is owned by Walt Dixon, and he has assured me that if the county requests it, that he will donate a 50-foot right-of-way for that road so that the county can then have it in their area and paved or graded or whatever needs to be done at no cost. The other part, this is paved, most of it is paved, except for an additional 3/10 of a mile at Gerbaloo Circle that is unpaved, and where it ties into the Smith Road. There's a half a mile on the Smith Road that is unpaved and also needs to be elevated. It's low to the point that it gets flooded over during high water times also. So anyway, this was what we ran into, and the pavement is okay on what's there. It's just that there are 3 places that is unpaved that needs to be looked at. Also, it needs to be signage put up that it is an evacuation route. It's a little difficult to know that it is since there's no signs that I know of that show up anywhere along 98 or anywhere else. But during '05, when Dennis came in, the 98 was flooded up around the springs there, and people were stacked up in Ronald Fred Crumb's area there that were trying to get out and couldn't get out and didn't know how to get out because of the flooding up further up on 98 there. So it is a concern. It is something that happens. Doesn't happen every year, but it is something that we need to look at and something we need to take in mind, and keep in mind that those people down there do need to get out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lansford. Next is Mr. Jasper Musgrave.
Good afternoon. My name is Jasper Musgrave, and I've lived in Wakulla County most of my life. I appreciate what you do, and I call you sometime and get on your case and everything. And I'm going to ask you something. Do you live on a payroll? You see, this is some of the problem, and nothing against you, but this is some of the problems. You see, we got it made, so we don't care about the rest of it. And Coolwood Lane, if you will go back and do your history, this is one of the first roads that came through here.
I'm going to say something on his defense real quick. He lives in Mill Hollow, and it was paved when he bought his lot. I want to make sure that was clear. But
Good. No, I wasn't saying.
Okay.
You know, he's okay. His truck, his car is not getting beat to death on dirt roads.
I live on a dirt road.
Cooplewood Road, one of the first roads through here. It used to be Old Shell Point Road all the way up and to Wakulla, going out to Woodsville. Why could these side roads, these new roads that came in, get paved before the main road? We talked about this before the 1 cent sales tax. We went to work trying to get the 1 cent sales tax in order to get this road paved. We were told then that we got that 1 cent sales tax through, we get the road paved. We got the 1 cent sales tax through, and nothing happened. We got dropped down all the way. We have, in the area where we live at, on Cooper Wood, up in that area up there, we have taxation without representation. We don't get anything done up there. The sewage lines and stuff that came through, we got nothing up there. I mean, nothing we get up on that end. We were promised that if we got to work and got the right-of-way, they would pave the road. We went to work doing that, sending out letters, found people all over the place. Got that taken care of. Still got dropped back. And Cleve, he tried to do his best in grading the road, but the equipment he have, he say he can't do it a couple of times a month. You got to have it monthly. If we can't get it paved, can we at least get a routine where we can get it graded on a regular basis? Because our cars are getting towed up in there. One of the other things I would like to share with you, as a matter of fact, one of the new residents said the other day that she was getting whiplash from riding on Cooplewood Road. When it rains up there, it really gets bad. Those ruts are getting... As a matter of fact, I drove school bus for 29 years, and one of the reasons I had to get off was these roads. And Cooplewood Road was one of the main ones. It's one of the worst roads. And Pat Jones would tell you, that's some of the biggest problems she have up there on Cooplewood Road whenever it rains. One of the main roads that the bus drive, why can't we pave it? Cooplewood Road was there before there was a Wakulla Garden. And here it is, the new places that are coming in are getting attention, but yet and still the old places that really need it can't get it. You guys consider that. Appreciate it.
Did I hear that there's still right-of-way problems, or?
I haven't been there for a few years. I'll let
There
you
are.
answer that.
There are. There's still right-of-way problems. Right.
I think was it the Gavin, the curve right there is...
We leave Emily Lane headed back towards Ashley Hall. There's definitely right-of-way. There's no deeded right-of-way. We've met, Dr. Kessler had arranged a meeting with some people up, the community up there, and we got to a point where the people, even where the road is today, they wanted us to move the road back into basically the front yard of the community. I don't remember who all lived up there, but actually move the road closer to the people who live there, and actually across the wetlands. And as far as I know, there is no right-of-way ever been given to the county up there. There's been discussions of some right-of-way, but we looked hard when we did I just went blank on the Richardson Road. We were going to try to do something then, and we could not get right-of-way. Now, if there's right-of-way maps or right-of-ways been approved by people, we'll look at it, but in our files, and you did this before I did it, I don't see any deeded right-of-way from anybody.
You still have the maps in it you used to have up on the wall?
Yeah, we got pretty good. We spent lots of time looking at the right-of-way up there. We were doing Richardson Road, and I can't remember the other road we got down through there. But again, it's
I think personally, I've just come to evolve over the years. At some point, we're going to have to decide whether if we want to pay for right-of-way or not. If we want to pay appraised value for property, because the hard part is you're asking people to give the land, and then they'll look somewhere else. Here's the catch-22. Somebody holds out to the very end, and then the last piece of property they won't give their right-of-way, and the county says, all right, we got all the other right-of-way, let's just buy theirs. And then everybody that just gave theirs is all mad. So the next road that comes along, they say, I'm not giving anything, you're going to have to pay me for it. So, I mean, at some point, we have to decide if we want to spend as much money on right-of-way acquisition as we do on paving roads.
I think the problem is we don't have enough money to even make it a question.
That's right.
And so, and I heard you say that you've got surveys and we've spent money on that. I'd love to see a breakdown on what we have and where we know we have right of way and where we know we're missing it.
We'll get together. I was going to make an offer to the newer commissioners. I think Dr. Kessler and Randy has probably looked at it before, to show where the proposed road was and where we don't have right of way.
Can you open up an AutoCAD file on your computer?
No.
I got the CAD file I can email to you.
Yeah, but we got.
I'm sure there's probably a utility I can
Yeah,
download to
probably.
convert it. So yeah, go ahead and send it.
Well, I just want to make one thing clear also, that the meeting that I and Cleve had with people in that area of Cooperwood was not during this present term of mine as county commissioner. It predated it, and it was continued the work that's been tried in the past. Now, there are opening up, even then, there were ideas that we're dealing with. There's some new ideas that are on the table. As I said, it takes, the right-of-way is the big issue. I don't think we need to jump in and offer right-of-way purchasing at this point in time. I think we need to see where we are as far as where the willingness is. And Old Bethel, we didn't have all the right-of-way on Old Bethel that we technically needed, but we made it work. And
I agree with you. It was made to work, but let's look at Old Shell Point, for example. I think we would have been better served to buy the right-of-way instead of putting three-way stop signs in that case. And another good example is Lonnie Raker, where the road makes a sudden jog right there and then jogs back. I think we actually made a dangerous situation there, and it may have been better at that.
And hopefully, and hopefully on those situations going forward, we look at it as correcting or straightening out those areas rather than perpetuating them. But I think right now, if we're all at least on board right now, and it seems to be that the majority of us are good with going with the safety issues, striping, getting that settled, but leaving our minds open to how we address future road paving, and of course looking at the right-of-ways when those issues come up.
And as you remember, Howard, another issue was, all right, you've got this pot of money and asphalt prices go up every year. You can set it aside for a road, whatever road it is, be it Old Bethel, be it Cooperwood or whatever, and then you got all these other roads with right-of-way that you don't do for years, and then I think in some cases the asphalt price went up so much, it went up 3 or 4 times, I think. We could have gotten a lot done with the same amount of money if we'd have went ahead and did it then, instead of saving that money for a road we never actually got the right-of-way on.
And part of also, as Cleve pointed out, with the bonding, that future tax money in the long, hurt us to some extent with limited money. That we're going to be better now that this is that's ending.
I still have one more citizen to speak. Mr. Joel Lay.
I'd like to thank everybody for being very considerate and thinking all these problems through. They're very difficult issues. My name is Joel Lay. I live on Cooperwood Road, so the reason I'm here is obvious. But I would like to make a point on Cooperwood that I don't think has been made yet. One is that it's a through road, right? Paving a subdivision road, it is important, obviously. People live there. Cooperwood Road is not just the people who live on Cooperwood, but a lot of people go through there. Cooperwood was graded just a few days ago, and you don't want to drive down it right now. It is terrible. It tears all our cars up. It tears the school buses up. It just really needs to be done. Paving throughout the county, I'd like to make the point that it's an economic issue. It is so important to this county's economy. You need to find the money to do what's needed to be done somewhere, because there will be a payback on that money. We just need to understand that. I have been thinking about putting an equine campground in where I am. I know the demand's there. People have called me up and asked me to come out there. They've actually come and camped in my pasture, but they really don't want to come back because the roads are just too bad. You know, I would probably start with like 2 hookups and 2 primitive campgrounds to start with. The maximum amount I would probably go to with the resources, land that I've got, would be maybe 5 and 5, with 5 hookups and 5 primitive campgrounds. But my point is here that unless you pave these roads, and it's Cooperwood first, the economy in the county is just going to stay in the doldrums. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion amongst commissioners? About anything?
All right, Cleve, let's move forward with the next phase, please, sir.
We have some impact fee money to spend, and we're fixing to do a resurfacing of Trice Lane.
Talking in the mic, please.
Resurfacing in the Trice Lane and Wakulla Aaron Road. Is actually Purple Rich is preparing the bid documents right now, and we would like to go ahead and prepare a alternate to the bid documents to do some improvements at the intersection of Trice Lane and Shadeville Highway, and possibly up at the community center. Now, we don't have the details to show you tonight. We'll obviously we'll come back to the agenda item. We'll have something a little more to look at, but we got the community center now is operating, and there's always some concern about the people crossing the roads, and that Trice Lane and Shadeville is a busy intersection, so we would like to go ahead and apply that impact fee money towards that project because it's due to growth, and we feel like we'll comply with the rules about using that money to put in a turn lane and whatever traffic improvements we can. And
I've chastised David about this at length, but at least consider
Ad nauseum.
At least consider if we're trying to get them. We talk about this in the community traffic safety team all the time. Trying to get the kids from the apartment complex to the community center. Consider a button-activated, flashing light that says speed limit 35 when flashing. Then we can legally have a crosswalk. I hate to see us
Why
drop.
don't we just pull it to 25?
That's fine with me. I don't care.
That's what I'm saying. If you're
If
going to
it's
take it,
just
take it down.
intermittent, only when people need it. What really chaps me is to make it 25. Ask the young lady behind you there who's got a
She's
speed
got a
ticket
left
out there.
foot.
I'm talking about Jessica. That if you lower it unrealistically, it just makes a speed trap. I hate to say that, but if we had a button-activated crosswalk where it says 25 when flashing, just like a school zone, people I think it would really make them slow down a lot more than posting it at 35 and it be posted 35 all the time and them not following, because they were not following the 35 speed limit.
And we've kind of kicked the idea about putting a turn lane in there.
Right.
And possibly a caution light. I mean, like I said, we're talking about improvements, and I actually hit Alan with this afternoon. So we're in the limited money we got available, and we'll take input from the commissioners, and Preble Rich has done a great job over the years with the county's traffic issues to see what we can come up with to make that improvement. And we don't have to accept it because it's going to be an alternative to a bid that we're going to put out anyway for Trice Lane and Wakulla Aaron. That's is a grant fund.
Scrap money?
Scrap money.
Okay. And I don't think you can have a crosswalk in a 45, right?
It depends on other parameters, but yes.
Because there's a lot of talk going around about dropping the speed limit at 35, and I just really don't want to see that happen.
We haven't made, at least Public Works has not made any determination of other than strongly looking at putting a turn lane and possibly, I don't want to use the word traffic light at this point, but maybe some caution lights in the area.
Oh, no problem.
But
You're talking about a turn lane on Shadeville?
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
So left turn into Trice?
Left turn into Trice Lane.
Let's turn eastbound.
Then you would to access the community center, you come down Trice Lane just a little ways and turn right into the community center. And we're even talking today about then having traffic come out of the community center, you know, exit back right on no left turns and make them go back to Trice Lane and turn left. But those are the type of things that we'll come back with a plan to try to smooth the traffic flow, because it's going to be just like a school zone. There's going to be times in the morning when people are dropping off the kids for summer programs, or school programs, or before school programs going to be dropped off there. In the afternoon when they're picking everybody up. The rest of the time, there's not going to be lots of traffic later at that community center. So look at just the traffic flow through the community center and the improvements at the Trice Lane Shadyville intersection. And again, we haven't made any. We're going to come up with some ideas.
Any problem y'all seeing that?
And that would come out of that 104,000 impact fee?
Yeah,
money?
that would be solely for that.
And we could, and by making an alternate to the bid, we would. I mean, the contractor's already there. He's already mobilized. He's on site. He's got equipment. So I think that's the best way to get the.
Is there any way you could squeeze it into the actual scrap project itself?
Depending on where the improvements are, potentially. You know, a crosswalk at Trice Lane and Shadyville, you know, we could justify that. If we're talking about improvements on Shadyville Road, where the second community center driveway is, that would be.
How much money they give us on Trice? A lot?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but that one we're expecting to be pretty tight. We can include alternates and squeeze everything.
Well, you know, if you're coming into Trice to 61, you could put a left and a right turn lane there. If we're expecting a lot of traffic at the community center, like we really need coming out of the rec park, you know, that's something you could do within the scope of work, I assume, if you got the right of way.
Well, the scrap will pay for safety upgrades, but not capacity upgrades.
Okay.
So we just need to. It just depends on what the justification is.
But the final plan will come back to the board in a formal agenda item. So we're not at this point in time. Preparation is not going to charge you for the services, and so he's donating that. So we'll have a plan, and if you don't want to go with that, then we move on to something else. And
we're going to have you decide to give us a recommendation. Then we can
we're going to base with preparation. And David, and we'll come back with what we think is best for that intersection.
If you ask politicians how they want to do it, you'll get all kind of weird answers.
No comment about that one.
So are we good as a board to go ahead with that? Okay.
Yes.
Now I'm going to kind of turn this over to Alan. We submit scrap and SCOT programs or projects and SIGP projects every year. And between Preble-Rish and Public Works, we kind of know what roads DOT will approve. And our history has proven that, because we've been getting 2 and lots of times 3 projects. We got 3 projects this year. We have 4 next year.
4 this year. 3.
Yeah, 3 and 4, or 4 and 3. But we're going to give you what we think is best to submit for these projects. But remember, we're submitting this for FY 2019. So there's a huge lag between when you submit it, because it gets in the program, and you can go anytime you want to. You can go on your DOT site and look at what projects are approved for Wakulla County.
Will you tell us what road criteria? It has to be a collector. It can't be a subdivision road.
Well, it can't be a subdivision road, but right now I'm going to let Alan do this. Stuff to a gentleman earlier said something about evacuation routes. You know, that's why Smith Creek Highway is probably going to score pretty high. Shell Point, Spring Creek Highway, again, you're improving the ability of people to get out of that area. We repair culverts or improve culverts, you know, widen the road. So they look at what to move traffic during, you know, emergency services and the traffic on the highway. But I'm going to let Alan, because he's more familiar with the program, and he's going to be the one that makes the submittal for us.
Al gets done early enough we can get something to eat for a meeting. Al.
I'll be quick.
Commissioner Merritt, to answer your question, the things they look at are evacuation routes, amount of agricultural traffic, if it is a connector, if it's a primary arterial of the county. Another thing, the most important thing that they look at is pavement condition. So if they can check the box on ag traffic evacuation route, all that stuff, then it boils down to what's the pavement condition and how does that rank against the other communities or the other submittals in all of District 3.
Curtis Mills should be way up there.
One of the things that I guess the most important thing I would like to introduce to you and get your feelings on is the Scott program this year is asking for 2 projects. So they're asking for applications on 2 SCOP, which will allow widening.
Now, Scott, which one is the one that has no match?
Well, since you're...
Scott used to be 75-25, didn't it?
But you can waive the 25%.
For constrained?
Correct.
Okay.
And that will apply to all 3 programs, is that you can waive the required match. They'll still only fund the percentage, but you don't have to provide the match. So normally what we end up doing is revising the scope of the project to fit the funding.
Who made the list?
I did.
Martin Luther King Road, not Lower Bridge Road.
I'll make a note of that.
I would correct that if I were you.
I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
The DOT is asking for 2 SCOP projects which will allow for widening. And this is something that Cleve and I have talked about, and we've talked about with DOT, is Smith Creek Highway is such a big project, is we want to try to start submitting it in chunks so that we can just say phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That will allow it to start getting funded, because obviously a $10-15 million project won't get funded. We're looking at projects that would be between $750,000 and $1.5 million. But it's going to require some long-term commitment from the county to keep submitting that phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. This year, I think, would be a good year for us to start that kind of a process if we're interested in doing it, because they're asking for 2 SCOP projects. So there's a potential that we could get phase 1 and 2 done first year, which would be 2019, and then maybe 3 years after that we'd have the remainder of the road complete.
How many phases are you thinking on 375?
Well, it depends on the allowable funding. We've got a good relationship with staff at DOT, and they'll kind of give us an idea of what size projects they're looking for.
You just going to resurface or widen it?
Well, what we're proposing in order to get as much done as we can is to resurface and then do curve widening. So we'll widen in the curves. You can, I'm sure, go out there and see where cars go off the road, and you can use the drivers to see where the need is.
Not but 2 curves.
There's a lot of curves. But what we're recommending is doing resurfacing, limited widening in the curves, because that's going to be really expensive whenever we start putting down more lime rock, and then address the drainage structures. And
I don't remember. All those were widened and redone when they did it a few years ago. All the drainage structures, if I remember correctly.
And we had 4 of them blow out in Tropical Storm Debbie.
Really?
That was when you were the head Cleves.
No, I was not. I wasn't around for Tropical Storm Debbie.
What we found out is the joints weren't wrapped with fabric, and so any little crack allows for the sand to leak through in the joint, and it blows it out. So
that's Nanette's fault.
And then we would also, starting in 2019, be able to address thermoplastic, like long-term striping, which would play into kind of what the plan that Cleve discussed this evening is getting paint on the ground, which would last 4 to 6 years, and then start coming behind it as some grant monies allow to hit the
allow for thermo and resurfacing.
So what it boils down to is, according to this list here, the 375 is the only one on SCOP. You want board direction to use all the SCOP money on 375 and whatever phases you can get done on it?
That's correct. And the most important thing that I want to kind of stress is that I think it's going to take at least 5 application periods to get the whole thing done. And you know, maybe we go to FH13, but have some end goal so that we can say, okay, for the next few years on SCOP, this is the plan, is to submit as much as we can until we get to FH13 or until we get to the Leon County line. Or like Commissioner Harden said, start north and run south. I mean, that's the kind of direction that I'm also seeking.
Let me ask you a question, Alan. We were talking about last year about combining the scrap, SCOP, and ZIGP fundings together to create one big project for 375. Have you given any more consideration to that with DOT?
Yes, and I've had several conversations with them about that, and the result of that was that as far as, since all those funds come from different pots, it would make an accounting nightmare for them. They said that they recommended choosing one program and
hammering away at it.
Right, that's right.
What's the pavement condition on 375? Is it bad?
It is.
Crack?
It is.
Is it reflective cracking from the old road? Because I know they put a layer of rock over it, didn't they? If I remember right. I think they put a layer of crack relief over it, and then they paved over the top of that. So they should have eliminated reflective cracking, unless it's where they widened it on the edges and it's breaking off.
I'm noticing parallel cracking, which is probably what that's from, is the widening. And then also, it's not reflective cracking, it's just basically raveling. You know, the sun seems to be putting more of a...
Super pave out there, I think, is the asphalt.
Yeah,
I believe.
There's something environmentally that's causing that, the binder to wear off.
When you pave over a road and you just leave the crack there, the crack will come right back up through the pavement. What about, just real quick, Curtis Mills, y'all look at it, or has it been done recently? And another one...
Curtis Mills in pretty good shape.
Okay, that's fine. And Wakulla Aaron, I know, is really bad. Is that already on the list already?
Wakulla Aaron is actually getting done this fiscal year.
And widened, right?
That's correct.
And Spring Hill Road is this year too, right?
This year too.
That's correct.
Your KG Posey, that's such a small stretch there, and it gets a lot of traffic. And it's a north-south corridor. That's a real good one there to keep people moving north and south.
I'm recommending Cager Posey for the CIGP program because it will it'll fund up to $500,000, and so it's smaller length, and CIGP gives extra points for transportation enhancements that can lead to economic development. And so you know, Cager Posey is part of a corridor that allows a secondary access through the county. So Cager Posey under the CIGP program is another one of my recommendations. And then MLK from 365 to 98 or East Ivan Road would be my scrap recommendation, which would be basically resurfacing.
Does Aaron Road have a turn lane at the elementary school there now?
There is a center turn lane, two actually.
Need one at the other school, by the way.
On 375, wouldn't we be better starting south and working north, because the traffic's gonna thin out the further you get toward Leon?
I would think so, because just my thoughts, you know, a lot of people going to Smith Creek going there to fish, I would assume.
Yeah.
Maybe they're probably going to come south to north, I would assume. That's the way I would go.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that live in the woods between Stop Shop and Sanborn.
Yeah, there is.
A lot of people that live there that use that road every day.
That'd be my preference.
Yeah.
Work toward the Leon County line.
You mean like Mount Beezer Church?
Yeah, in Mount Beezer and Sanborn area.
I wouldn't say a lot. 5 or 6 isn't a lot.
Oh, there's quite a few that live back in those woods back in there.
There's a good bit lives up in there.
Yeah, you got all the law homes out there. That's a whole town.
Well, what's your opinion on that?
I would agree with Commissioner Thomas that traffic would disperse from, as
that travels north.
Good.
And that's really all I had. Like I said, the main idea that I wanted to bring up this evening was breaking up Smith Creek Highway into some...
That sounds like a good plan to me.
And making sure that we've got the commitment to push it on through.
As far as striping, we would, as soon as we can get the striping, that will, for the short term, that will alleviate the big safety concern that's there now, and which is really huge. And then you know, at 4 or 5 years down the road, then we can start.
I agree. There is an immediate need of striping, and the paint is less expensive. It allows you to get more done, so you wouldn't be, you know, kind of coming behind yourself. To address the 4-inch stripe, David, I think what you're talking about that looks like somebody just used a marker is a 3-inch stripe. Lots of counties are going to a 4-inch stripe, even with thermo, to save money.
Maybe David should leave the public works.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question, and I come back and beat the same drum. We need to have in our county a machine that will correct these broken lines in our pavement. I'm sure that we get a 20% or a 30% return, because if you allow water and freezing to get into those cracks, that road, it kills that road 30% faster. And everywhere you go with private enterprise, they've got a machine in those parking lots. They start putting that, they patch it.
Yeah, filling the cracks will definitely
It'll save you money.
And then also, Commissioner Merritt, I wanted to just make sure that everybody was aware, we've previously gotten direction from the board to do a single RPM down the center, regardless of
Raised pavement marker, for those not in the traffic world. Go ahead.
But we've gotten direction from the board in the past to do that, and we are doing that on all of our projects to specifically for what you...
That was Jerry's idea, actually. But
And that's in addition to the striping, right?
That's correct, but the reason for the direction was that if you have a 6-inch, 2 6-inch stripes, 6 inches in the middle, and then you have your 2
On the outside.
reflectors on the outside, then that's 2 feet, you know, almost 2.5 feet that's eaten up out of a 20-foot wide roadway. You barely have enough room to
drive down, was it Surf Road? Try not to hit one of those
Surf
things.
Road, yeah. And what you do is you chew off the inside and the outside of your corners. In fact, I avoid Surf Road because I cannot pay enough attention to my driving to stay off the humps or the side of the road.
That's all I had.
That's fine.
Okay.
I appreciate you, Alan.
Thank you very much.
And while we kind of brought up Surf Road, I will be glad whenever that bike trail gets finished all the way into Stop Traffic, because I think that's going to be a huge asset.
Speaking of the bike trail then, thank you, Chairman. Where are you aware of where the trail will be on the north or south side of that road?
I had heard that it was going to be on the north side of 319 going into Stop Traffic.
Talking about now on 319? Or on Surf Road?
Surf Road.
Surf Road in Phase 2, which is from, what's that marina that's there, Riverview Marina?
You're from the creek?
There to the creek to 98 is planned to be on the north side of 98 there.
Okay. And then
Okay.
when you pass that?
That's what I mean, from there to 98, and then it's going to go under the bridge on 98, under the Clutney Bay Bridge, and come back up and go on the south side of, what would that be, Matches Sands Road, and then cross over at the bridge.
They got to swim the river?
No, there's plenty of dry land underneath the bridge and plenty of height there, believe it or not. That's the current plan. That may change, but that's the current plan.
Kind of like the Florida Trail ending right across.
They're doing the environmental survey and everything now, DOT is,
Okay, so
for that phase.
So if we're at 98 and Surf Road,
Mhm.
and we're heading towards Stop Chopping,
It'll be on your right-hand side.
okay, then when we get to, will it stay that way all the way through to the refuge?
It may, right now the plan is to have it go all the way on the right-hand side until it gets to the I can't remember which side of the bridge it crosses on. Does
Somewhere
it-
there around Silver, the entrance to Silver Glen, it crosses back over to the south.
Yeah, then it crosses back to somewhere in there. I believe it goes
It's
over
gonna
the
really
bridge.
get to Silver Glen then?
That's right there at Riverview, it goes across the bridge on the north side, and then over somewhere just down there, it crosses over.
Okay, 'cause that
It's on the south side.
Citizens asking, concerned about where it's gonna be.
Well, that's where it is now, but I understand they're doing all the environmental work and archaeological surveys and all that stuff, so
Okay.
who knows where all that's gonna lead.
But we cleared all the Indian mounds and
I hope.
so far, that we know of.
We've got the tribes happy right now.
And I think, you know, just to kind of finish with it, but I think once it goes to Sopchoppy and it goes across 319, it's supposed to run on the north side of 319 into Sopchoppy.
I think so, yeah, but the biggest thing there is that's gonna very expensive section, and but DOT is committed to fund it, so we're gonna be submitting. You'll be seeing. We're gonna hit the street probably next week with the construction for phase 3. So.
Once that's finished, that's going to really help a huge safety concern right there for people who walk and bike, because we've already had one accident there in Sopchoppy where someone got hit, and
That's right.
you
That's
know,
correct.
and that ditch on the north side is a very, very steep ditch, you know, and from the
There'll
point,
be a lot of pipe work.
and that's what I had understood. There will be a lot of pipe work brought up, but anyway.
They can do it in
that's all I
St.
got.
Mark's, we can do it in South Chopper.
Exactly. We can do anything St.
There's some
Mark's
deep
does.
ditches there.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
all. That's all I got, Dave. Have you got anything else?
Anybody got anything else, Cleve?
We'll go get a hamburger.
All right. Greg, you all right?
See you all at
What-
6
what-
o'clock.
Hold on.
Oh, Greg.
Okay, yeah. Jessica brings up a good issue. Is how are we going to, Cleve, how do you propose to bid out this striping? Are we going to say, here, how are you going to do that? Are you going to assign roads or what?
Can we just give a general direction to stripe roads instead of paved roads and let y'all figure out which ones to do?
Well, that's what I'm saying is we're
If you want us to, we can bring back a ratification of the workshop, or just,
Let's just ratify the workshop minutes and let them figure out which is the safest, most
Just-
cost-effective way to do it instead of us.
I agree.
That
y'all
work
good with
for you?
that?
Go with me.
Okay.
with that.
That's
But
easy.
y'all want us to sit here and
No,
talk
that
about it now?
is exactly what we wanted y'all to say. You
All right,
couldn't
we'll-
say anything better.
We'll adjourn the workshop. We'll reconvene 6 o'clock.
All right.
Started. I'm going to ask Commissioner Thomas to begin with the invocation and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you. Thank you for this day. We thank you for this time that we can be here. We thank you for this rain. Sometimes we have too little, sometimes we have too much, but we're always thankful for it. We ask you to just be present with us tonight. Just guide our hearts, guide our minds. Help us to do what's best for our community and for your kingdom. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yes, I'm going to be adding something to awards and presentation.
You're going to be adding to awards and presentations?
Yes, thank you.
Who's going to be giving the presentation, Mr. Custer?
I will.
Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion approved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, citizens to be heard for the first section. Our first one is Mr. Eugene Watkins.
Eugene Watkins, Crawfordville, Florida. The question I have tonight, or to present to you guys, is I know there's been a lot of talk about property rights and takings, and you guys apply this a lot to the wetlands ordinance. And I'm just curious why we don't start applying this property rights issue and the takings issue to a lot of our other zoning laws that we have, like you can't put trailers on your property and stuff like this. I would think the four of y'all would start putting out some motions to start taking care of this if property rights and takings are a big concern to you. So I just present that to you tonight. If you're thinking about the property rights and takings, let's start looking at other things than just the wetlands. Let's look at some of our other zoning laws too. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next speaker, Mr. Hugh Taylor.
Dr. Kessler will be making a straight-up notice on a film to be held on March 30th, Sunday, March 30th. I'd like to talk, excuse me, a little bit about the film and a quote. You all have been noticed about a film. I mean, you were invited to a film. My wife and I would like to invite not only the public, but you all to a film screening at the Wakulla County Public Library on the 30th from 2 to 5. The film is a flash of green. Watch the movie. If you've got sunshine concerns, leave one commissioner during the room during discussion. If you've never had a workshop on the wetlands, we're offering a chance to have a discussion. You pontificate, but won't engage the citizenry. This film is based on a novel of the same name by John D. MacDonald. It's a book about a wetlands fight. The book is over 50 years old. Wakulla's a special, fragile place. It's a treasure. This film is by an internationally award-winning director, Victor Nunez, the guy that got Peter Fonda off his Harley and into a pickup truck in Wee Waa Hitchka in Yuli's Gold. It won Mr. Fonda an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Although Mr. Fonda won't be here, Mr. Nunez will. Victor Nunez will be a special guest. He will introduce and talk about the film and be available for discussion afterward. Although his film is over 25 years old, the film is still topical and appropriate, and we're so lucky to have Mr. Nunez come down. But like a friend commented, he saw the movie and he said, the characters in that film, they could be us. Although Mr. Nunez will be at the screening of the film, unfortunately none of you have accepted my invitation yet, and I think it's shameful. I don't want to be egregiously uncivil, but that you would not allow, that you wouldn't come is disappointing. One of you, at least. I heard a quote the other day about Women's History Month from a women's activist. When you don't have a seat at the table, bring your own chair. Well, this film, folks, is our seat, and we're bringing it. Our chair, and we'd love to share. Everyone is invited. I want to make that perfectly clear. Everyone's invited, and we're offering you a table, a seat at the table where you wouldn't even workshop this thing. So I guess the film and the upcoming referendum, if there is one, will be the citizens' chance at bringing a chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steve Cushman?
I'm Steve Cushman from Panacea, Florida. I've got a couple announcements I'd like to make before I get to a little small presentation here. March 22nd, the Keep Wakulla County Beautiful, which I'm the president of, we're having a hazardous waste day at 340 Trice Lane from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's open to all residential household waste except for tires. No commercial, but it is a way. I know a couple weeks ago there was something said about the litter on the highways. this is a great opportunity to kind of curb some of that, and I encourage everyone to participate. Next Tuesday at Wakulla Springs Lodge, March 25th, the Keep Wakulla County Beautiful Green Drinks Friend Raiser. So if you're interested in what Keep Wakulla County Beautiful does, it's a good opportunity to come out. There'll be some food there. And we'll talk about what we do at Keep Wakulla County Beautiful. The last one is April 19th. We're partnering with Comcast on their Care Days to do a beautification landscape project at the historic courthouse here in Crawfordville. Anybody wants to keep up with Keep Wakulla County Beautiful and what we do for the county, you're more than welcome to join our Facebook page under Keep Wakulla County Beautiful. The last thing I want to talk about and hopefully solicit some support from you guys is the John Farrell Jr. property that's actually for sale right now, and we contracted today on it under Aquatic Science Association to purchase the land. The intent would be to purchase it under Aquatic Science Association, turn it into a community park for Wakulla County, in which we would try to put it under a 99-year lease to the county very cheaply. So it'd be a county park where there's no liability to the county. We would assume liability and maintain insurance on the property, and it would become one of the biggest parks that Wakulla County would have. It's 475 acres. There are 12 sinkholes that have been identified on the property, which divers from the Aquatic Science Association dive team are actually actively exploring right now. We tied 2 of them into the Wakulla-Leon Sinks line. We're at a depth of over 304 feet deep, and we're 8,800 feet into 2 of them. We have found a natural clear water conduit trending in from the north of that property that's coming in, we think, from Tallahassee, that may be linked to Church Sink up there at 319 and next to the Korean Baptist Church. This piece of property is located just north of Biloxi Cutoff Road, so it has potential to tie into the Capitals to the Sea Bike Trail and make a huge bike park up there that would be similar to the one at Woodville Highway and Capitol Circle in Tallahassee. So there's a lot of potential for that piece of property should it be purchased and brought up for a county park. And we would ask that the county get behind and support it. I'm in talks with Steve Sutherland's staff right now, and they're thinking they're going to be able to get almost 2/3 of the funding for it from the Department of Commerce and the Interior Department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cushman. Next we have Charles Hickman.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Charles Hickman. I reside at 528 Hickorywood Drive, and this evening I wish to speak on the conduct of this board. The last meeting was not only deplorable, it was depressing, it was disgraceful, and it was embarrassing, not only to you 5 gentlemen sitting on this board, but also to every person as a voting member of this county. There is no reason to conduct yourselves in the way that you expressed your feelings last meeting. I would like to take a minute and remind you, you have laws, bylaws, by which you are supposed to operate. And these bylaws basically state that you have a parliamentarian. I have very rarely heard that parliamentarian say anything to you about being out of order. Yet, last meeting, there were several of you who were out of order. Mr. Merritt, you corrected Mr. Harden on what he could do and what he couldn't do. You did the very same thing whenever you were sitting in that chair. You cut people to 2 minutes. That was your option to do so. I have no problem with that. I applaud Mr. Harden about trying to maintain some civility, and at the same time give everyone the full 3 minutes that's called for in your bylaws. I don't really know what the purpose of the parliamentarian is. You have the description of what the parliamentarian is supposed to do, but I doubt seriously if any of you have ever taken a course in Robert's Rules of Order. If you have, you're not expressing it when you sit up here. Every commissioner, and I quote, during the meeting should speak and should address the chairman on an issue. And what I saw last meeting was one commissioner attacking another commissioner without foundation, because I followed very closely what was happening with the whole fracas that was going on several years back in our Wakulla County News concerning wetland suits and who was being sued and who wasn't. There may have been charges made, but no one was sued other than one person. So please, get your facts straight before you come to the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Hickman.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all of our citizens to be heard that have turned in a card to speak in the first. We don't have any scheduled public hearings for this meeting. We'll move on next to the awards and presentations. Commissioner Kessler, you said you had an awards and presentation you wanted to add on?
Right. There were no others. Okay, great. So, it's already been mentioned, on Sunday, March 30th, from 2 to 5 p.m., there will be a screening of Director Victor Nunez's 1986 film, A Flash of Green, at the Wakulla County Public Library. And in that film is Ed Harris at a very young age. This is the same director, as you've heard, that directed Yuli's Gold with Peter Fonda, and also Ruby in Paradise. Also, he had one of our aspiring actors from Soft Choppy, Travis Herndon, was in one of Nunez's films. Didn't have a big role, but he was in it. And so this is someone who's internationally known, local to our area, and the film that he made deals with, it's called A Flash of Green, and it deals with the influence of money on people and how things develop. So how it affects both of those areas. So it's an interesting film, even though it's in the 1980s, and I'd urge people to visit it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any other awards and presentations.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion made and seconded to approve consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay, we don't have any planning and zoning items tonight. Our first order of general business is to request board direction relating to transfer of ownership of property located at 28 Pam Drive, Crawfordville. To get a motion in a second.
You want to tell us what it is?
Yeah, this came before you last year or earlier this year, and we've been waiting for the owner to pay the subsequent taxes, which he finally did. But the problem is they were so late to where there's another year's taxes that are due. The property still has not been cleaned up. On the agenda item, it says that we asked in board direction on number 1. Actually, our staff's recommendation is number 3, to contract with a vendor to bring the property into compliance and assess such costs against the property pursuant to Chapter 15 of the
So
code.
moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made and second. We have any discussion? I don't have any citizens to speak on this item. If we had discussion amongst the commissioners.
David, this is the Lake Ellen property, right?
Yes, Pam Drive.
Pam Drive that's basically messed up pretty bad.
That's right.
Talked about this several times, I think.
Mhm.
This is also, as I understand it, the most economic path for the county to take.
I think so. It appears to be. Commissioner Thomas brought up a good point, which we were going to do anyway. But he, is possible at that time we're getting ready to clean it up. See if our public works guys have the time to do that, and if that's the case, it would help lessen the effect on the county as far as the cost, and possibly get us the property, or get us paid back sooner, quicker, or have a better chance of selling.
So we have to have somebody buy a tax certificate.
That's assuming the owner does not pay that.
Right.
Yes.
So is that offer still on the table? I know last time we talked, we didn't pin down the cost, that's an unknown, but I think we talked somewhere around $2,000 if we have staff do it in-house with...
I would like to be able to move forward with this, and then I'll talk to Cleve about that at that time, and whenever, I don't want to put him on the spot here.
So this motion on the table would be for us to reverse a last position, we were going to take the property
Right.
and then deal with that. And so now what's the motion here is we're just clean it up, we'll assess the fine, then the owner can be responsible for his own taxes, the assessment,
Right.
or we may be back at this road again if that's not cleared up.
Mm-hmm.
As I also understand it, the only thing that's going to be assessed is the amount that we have out of cost to actually clean the property up.
And the problem with the first scenario is that not only would, if we assume the property, we'd still have to clean it up, and then we've got to try to sell it, or do whatever, then we have liability of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got to pay the back taxes as well.
Whatever it happens, it's not going to be worth what the
I
assessment.
was going to say, there's not an easy out here.
Is it one lot or two?
Two lots.
2 lots, yeah.
There's a septic tank on it, I assume?
And as I understand it, the taxes for 1 year were paid, but then there's additional taxes for another year and a part of another year.
That's right.
Okay, if we don't have any more discussion, we have a motion and a second. We have all in favor for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next is request board approval of change order of Sperry and Associates. David, you want to explain this?
Yeah, Commissioners, this is a change order, a small change order for electrical as well as fireproofing and some doors, as well as setting a fireproof barrier within the attic space.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Where's the money coming from?
We have that, that's within the, it's coming from the 1 cent sales tax, combination 1 cent sales tax, impact fees as well.
Brenda.
Impact fees and
Say something.
yeah, I couldn't think of impact fees.
Okay, if you don't have any more discussion, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Next, David,
The agenda item number 11, this is, saw this in our last meeting, the request board consideration and approval of legal services for Wakulla County Charter Review Commission.
I'll motion to approve option 1, approve Pennington Law Firm.
Second.
motion made second. Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Commissioner Kessler?
thank you. I personally feel this is an unnecessary taxpayer expense for this budget year. We discussed already that we're looking at in the horizon of a possible $400,000, $600,000 deficit. We have, as we heard at the workshop this afternoon on roads, we have road striping, reflectors, miles of county roads to take care of. We have sewer problems with lift stations, Hickory Park, Surf Road. We have increasing health costs. We have flatter, if any, no rise in expected ad valorem. Roads needing to be paved. It goes on and on. Our Welcome Center in need of repairs. Our Maritime Museum struggling. Plus, there's no urgency with this. This could be left as a line item for the coming year, and it could be budgeted in if the board so wished. But at this point in time, I think it's unnecessary and way ahead of schedule.
We also have a citizen card that's been turned in to speak on this. Bob Danzy.
Thank you for letting me speak on this item, and my name is Bob Danzy. I live in Spring Creek. This is an example of Commissioner Kessler just not being in favor of the thing in the first place. For the citizens out there, this is a really good example of this, of the stonewalling.
I'd like to
that
call a
goes
point
on
of order,
in
Mr.
this,
Chairman.
It's just
I'd like to
stonewalling
call
that
a
goes
point
on.
of order.
Hold on, Mr. Danzy. Go ahead, Commissioner Castro. What's the point of order?
My point of order is that I thought we had a policy of, once the commissioner started to speak, cards should have been turned in prior to the commissioner speaking, and that did not happen in this case.
Duly noted, but Commissioner Castro, I'm going to allow him to speak his 3 minutes. This is a citizen. He wanted to speak on this issue.
I'm just asking for consistency.
Yes, sir. I understand. I also have a second one that's been turned in by Mr. Hugh Taylor. So I'm going to also allow Mr. Hugh Taylor to speak when I get done with Mr. Danzy, because they have submitted a card.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this opportunity. This is just a second example of Commissioner Kessler and the way he conducts business. It is insane to say that the committee, and I'm on this committee, this Charter Review Committee, and I'm not the official spokesperson, but it would be insane for us to go into this without an attorney. We could have all kind of ideas, but we can only do things that the state law, for instance, allows us to do. So I just want people to know that we have to have an attorney. We have to be able to ask them questions, and we've got to have something that we can bring to you all that's going to be legal. So this is just ludicrous. It's just another ploy from Commissioner Kessler. Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to have Mr. Hugh Taylor.
I'm only up here because I read the policy and Mr. Danzy was out of order. So I suggest, relative, once again, with what Mr. Hickman said, what I saw last meeting, please read the policy. Mr. Danzy, please read the policy. I don't believe that our county attorney would let anything illegal. She certainly would weigh in on any illegal amendment to the charter. I too think it's premature, but have at it. I think it's the whole committee's premature. You gave 13% of the vote to one family. I respect the county attorney enough that, you know, whatever the amendment or the charter amendment would be, that she would weigh in on it if it was illegal. I think it's a waste of money. And what happens in 2015 if there's a change? Who is going to address that? There we go again. But an attorney, I think, is a waste of money. That's all. And I'm only up here because Bob was up here. Thank you.
So I'd like to also add, Mr. Chairman, that this is a $5,400 expenditure that was not budgeted in our 13-14.
Sir?
We've got it in the budget. We had not budgeted for it, but we have it in the
Well, I understand that, but it was not specifically, this is something, a new expenditure that was unexpected. It's just for this portion of 13-14. Our Charter Review Committee can take up to 1 year. I'm still waiting to see the scheduled meetings as they plan it. How far out do they plan to take citizen input? How many meetings do they plan to have? How long do they plan to work on this?
Currently, they're planned for 2 meetings a month, and that's for the foreseeable future until they hash out. They've yet to establish. There was discussion as to whether they wanted to have the community meetings in one location, such as the library, or actually go out into the, you know, different, like the Sopchoppy and St. Mark's and Panacea, and have some. But they've yet to ferret that out. What they're going to do is they're planning to have 2 meetings per month for the foreseeable future is their plan.
And I'd like to see a commitment from them, because before I say what I'd like to see is a commitment from them, you know, there are people on this Charter Review Committee who have openly opposed the charter. And I'm not quite sure how that works, to have people trying to make a better charter with an opinion that the charter should be eliminated. But that's another story. What I would like to see the Charter Review Committee do, as far as for the board and for expenditures, is to commit to a time that they will definitely be out in the community taking citizen input, whether it's 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is. I'd like to see that commitment, and I'd like to see it come forward from the Charter Review Committee.
Commissioner Thomas?
I guess my question is to the county administrator and the county attorney. Is this committee required by our charter?
Yes.
And the people that are on the committee, are they duly qualified? They've met the requirements that's in the charter?
Yes.
Is there anything in our charter that states that they're to take their direction from this board, and we're supposed to pull their strings, and we're supposed to tell them how to conduct their job?
No.
Thank you.
Right, and I'd say I'm not telling them how to do their job. I am asking them to come forward with a commitment to the citizens of this county of over what period of time do they expect to take citizen input. That's not telling them how to do their job.
I have a quick question, since it was brought up. Is this $5,400 coming from raising taxes?
No.
Is it coming out of employee salaries?
Nope.
Is it coming from the road paving fund?
Nope.
How about the lift station repair fund?
Nope.
Thank you.
I made a good witness.
Yes, excellent. Good answer.
Right, and still in a time where we're looking at deficits and have to tighten our belt, and this is a committee that was established ahead of schedule.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Is there any more discussion amongst the board? All in favor for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
The motion passes. Okay, before I go on to the next agenda, I want to ask, we have 3 more agenda items, and if there's any citizen here that would like to speak in any of these other agenda items, please be sure that you have filled out a speaker card before we begin, so we can move forward. Thank you. Okay, item number 12.
Item number 12, the request board approval to waive the purchasing policy. Actually, it's an emergency purchase for approval to
I make a
purchase
motion to
2
approve.
HVAC units.
Second.
We have a motion, and seconded. Do we have any discussion? All in favor for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Okay, next are commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Merritt?
I want to explain it first, Richard, if I could. This is coming from the
Well-
community traffic? Huh?
Okay.
I think we should at least explain it before we get a motion in a second.
Well, that's kind of what we did last time.
Well, no, he can
Okay, go
explain
ahead,
it.
go ahead,
That's
go
right.
ahead. Go ahead.
That's right. He's acting like me.
All right, this is from the community traffic safety team. It was actually requested by the sheriff to raise the speed limits on Emmett Whaley to from 25 to 35, and raise the speed limit on Wakulla Aaron from Cager Posey out to the school, which is Spring Creek Highway, from 35 to 45. Now, I had it on the agenda item, and Heather wisely, if I must say, advised me, you know, you probably need to have some proof to justify this, because you get on people's butt when they lower speed limits without justification. Now, here you want to raise it without justification, and she was right. So the study wasn't done. It is done now. The 85th percentile is the standard. On Wakulla Aaron Road, the 85th percentile, which is the speed that 85% of the people are driving either at or faster, actually, is 48 miles an hour. So we're proposing to rate it from 35 to 45, which is pretty close in line with that. The 85th percentile on Emmett Whaley Road, which is now posted at 25, is actually 44 miles an hour. So we're going from 25 to 35, which is not 85th percentile, but I think it's more in line with actual speeds people are driving. David asked me this question today: what about traffic enforcement? You know, what if they were out there enforcing speed limits? Wouldn't that make a big difference? And standard engineering practice, Alan can verify this, I'm sure, is that people intuitively drive what road conditions they feel are safest for them, no matter what speed limit's posted. So, Having said that, I'll make a motion to raise the speed limit on Emmett Whaley Road from 25 to 35 on Wakulla area, and from Cager Posey out to Spring Creek Highway from 35 to 45.
Second.
I have a motion made and second. I have one citizen to speak on this issue, Mr. Bob Danzig.
Thank you for, again, let me speak. I won't take just a touch of time. Randy, thank you for doing this. It's just common sense, and there's a few other places. I won't get into them, but if you keep looking, I'll support you every time. It's just common sense. Thank you.
Okay, that's the only citizen I have. Is there any more discussion amongst commissioners?
Yes. So, why did the sheriff ask for this?
Well, a couple of examples. On Emmett Whaley in particular, it just got resurfaced, right? And it's 25 behind the library, and then it hits 35 a little further on down the line, and I guess it just seemed to them that that didn't really make any sense. And on the other one is because of the amount of traffic going to the school in the morning, there's just no reason it should have been set at 35 miles an hour for a straight shot paved road that's not in dense area. Now, we did look at it and decided that from Cager Posey back to Trice Lane, which is halfway dense, to leave that at 35 miles an hour. And this was agreed unanimously by the entire community traffic safety team, by the way.
Great. So, and I know it's been explained before about the majority of people, or whatever it is, that are, if they're traveling above the speed limit, conditions of the road is supposed to be then such that enables DOT or whoever else to say that, well, we should raise speed limits if they're traveling faster. For me, it's not that simple, and I'm not an engineer, but I think of the children, and I think of enforcement. And when I see on a road like Emmett Whaley Road that has a speed limit of 25 miles an hour, with the highest speed limit that was registered there at 93 miles an hour, if that's correct, with no one doing the speed limit. And I'm thinking, while that law was in effect, while that speed limit there, where is the enforcement? And if we, for me, if we have enforcement, maybe that speed limit, maybe that fellow wouldn't be doing 93. Okay?
Probably not.
Okay? But if we have enforcement, wouldn't you think that that would lower the speeds that people are doing on the roads?
The whole purpose of these studies, though, is to get a blind or a random feel for what's going on out there. If you were to set a cop car by this speed counter, I can assure you a lot of these people would be driving a lot slower. But the whole purpose of this is to go out there and look at it. Now, and I understand your argument, but why was it set at 25 miles an hour in the first place? Where'd that come from? Who come up with that? It's probably a politician just said, I think it's a good idea to set it at 25, let's set it at 25.
It wasn't this politician. I don't know how that got
a
set.
politician.
Well.
Wasn't this one either. And I'm just trying to introduce some sort of rhyme or reason or logic into the process instead of just saying, this is what I think, let's do it.
And I can agree to these speed limits, and I'm going to vote for these speed limits. But I think our process is flawed. I think this process, and I understand that FDOT uses it, and the Traffic Safety Committee can hang their hat on it, but there's something intuitively wrong when you say the faster that people travel gives us, and without enforcement, gives us the ability to, because Emmett Whaley Road, for me, I don't know, were there a lot of tickets during this traffic study that were given out? Did the guy that got 93 miles an hour, did he get a ticket?
We probably wouldn't need to worry about the jail bed revenue shortfall if he had, but no, probably not. Now, let me give you another example of how we did a study on Trice Lane. Turns out the 85th percentile, there's about 37, 38 miles an hour. People, and the speed limit's 35. So it proved itself that it does reflect what people think the correct limit should be.
Or maybe there's more enforcement there.
Well, you don't do a speed study with a cop car sitting there.
Well, I'm saying, but then maybe there, if you would
long
have,
term,
sure,
over
he's
long
been doing
term.
it 3 weeks before, and
yes, I agree.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All in favor for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Okay, next, Commissioner Kessler, your item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Howard, if you don't mind, when you're explaining your item, could you ask Heather to kind of explain it to us also?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
After I finish? Absolutely. So, this is an item that I've put on the agenda that requests the board to advertise and to schedule a public hearing as required in Ordinance 2008-14 of the Wakulla County Charter. The Wakulla Board of County Commissioners is required to take action when the requisite number of names has been verified by the Supervisor of Elections and reported to the Board of County Commissioners. And what we're referring to here is the ballot initiative by the citizens group Wakulla Wetlands Alliance. And so in 2008, the Wakulla County adopted a charter form of government as defined in their ordinance, and the Wakulla County Commissioners voted 4-1 to remove many of the wetland protections from Wakulla County's comprehensive plan. Citizens had asked the board and the commissioners to hold a workshop before the board voted on the item. The board refused. The Board of County Commissioners also voted 4-1 to eliminate the current county wetlands ordinance. However, they have not finalized that, and the ordinance is still in effect. Many citizens asked the board to place at least let the citizens of the county vote in November of 2014 so the citizens can vote whether to allow or not to keep their local wetland protections, and the Board of County Commissioners again refused. And in response to the board's vote to eliminate the significant wetland protections we have locally, a citizen group was formed, Wakulla Wetlands Alliance, and this citizen group went forward with a successful petition drive that would allow the eligible voters of the county the opportunity to vote on keeping the county's local wetland protections. The Wakulla Wetlands Alliance, or WWA, obtained the requisite number of petitions that were verified by the Supervisor of Elections. And as stated in Section 6.1.2 of the county charter, quote, within 60 days after the requisite number of names has been verified by the Supervisor of Elections and reported to the Board of County Commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners shall give notice and hold a public hearing on the proposed ordinance. It shall by resolution call a referendum on the question of the adoption of the proposed ordinance according to law and to vote on it. And if the board fails to enact the proposed ordinance, it shall by resolution call a referendum on the question of the adoption of the proposed ordinance to be held at the next general election occurring at least 45 days after the adoption of such resolution. And so the clock has been ticking on our 60 days, and that is the main purpose of this agenda item, is to, I would suggest, to advertise, or the motion would be to advertise and hold a public hearing on April 7th, 2014, for the purpose of the Board of County Commissioners voting on the Wetlands Ordinance Ballot Initiative. And so let me just simplify that for 1 second, if I might. So the board, according, as I read our charter, the board now has to, within 60 days, either vote to adopt into our laws the wording in the Wetlands Ballot Initiative, and if they fail to do so, then that, by resolution of the board, would then go to be placed on the ballot in November on the general election.
I want Heather to go ahead and explain her part too.
I have a specific question. If you'll answer it, I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Basically, we're compelled to do this by the charter, correct? It's spelled out clearly on the process.
That's correct. We already have the ad drafted for the April 7th
I'll
meeting.
second your motion, Howard.
We have a motion made and seconded. I have 5 citizens to speak on this item. The first citizen is Mr. Vic Lamblue.
Thank you, gentlemen. This is before you. The people have spoken. It's unheard of in any county that we could get 30% of the vote. You all didn't believe it, but we did, of the registered voters, to put this on the ballot. Now you have to have your public hearing, and I hope you will do it. And listen to what the people have said and are going to say again. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Mr. Chuck Hess. All right. Next speaker, let's see, Mr. Rick Groves. Next speaker, Mr. Hugh Taylor. Has he already left? Okay. Next speaker, Mr. Bob Danzig.
Bob, you not gonna pass?
I just would like to see this go, whatever it takes, to the November election. I believe when the people of the county find out that there's, I believe, a 50-foot setback off of the saltwater, the marsh areas, that's still going to be in place. A setback around sinkholes that's still going to be in place. In some cases, 100-foot, even more than the 75-foot. And when you realize there is a setback that the state has of 25 feet, I think we need to let the people speak, as Mr. Lambu says, because they're going to find out that there are setbacks, and this is wetlands ordinance is just a burden on the county. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna recall Mr. Hugh Taylor's name. He just walked back in.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. That was very civil of you. I don't like bothering Jamie during, I'd call her in the hall because I don't want to take up her time at your time, our time at work. We pay for it. I'm going to drive 140 miles an hour to this public hearing, if it passes, to raise the average speed on Martin Luther King Road, because I think it's figured backwards. But I'm going to do all that I can do to raise that figure. There's safety considerations, there's enforcement considerations, etc. And I had to work it in there because of the thing here.
Were you wanting to speak on this particular agenda item that we're speaking on now, or were you intending to...
No, I was intending to speak here, and that's the only way I could work it in, is saying I'm driving to this.
Very smart move, by the way.
Thank you. I'm not trying to get off topic. That's the topic. How fast I want to drive there. I'm in favor of it. That's all. And I do appreciate your indulgence.
Do we have any more discussion amongst commissioners?
If I could ask Heather a couple more questions. My understanding, just to reiterate what Howard is saying, we're compelled to have this public hearing. We're compelled to vote yes or no on the referendum language. Now, we can't modify that language in any way, correct?
The main purpose of that referendum has to be preserved. There'll be yes and no lines added. I'll add those after the referendum language. But you're not voting on the referendum language on April 7th. You're voting on whether you want to adopt the proposed modified ordinance.
Okay. All right. Here's my question.
The resolution will
Maybe
come
I
back
wasn't
for the
clear enough.
referendum later.
All right. Let's forget about that. Let's think about the public hearing. The next public hearing is, do we adopt the ordinance or don't we adopt it? If we don't, it goes to we have to pass a resolution to go to referendum.
That's correct.
When we're discussing the ordinance to be adopted on the 4th, for example, if I say, I'm not going to do this, probably won't, but I'll vote for it if you put a variance procedure in it. You can't do that, right? Because it's, okay. I suspect it's not going to pass. I'd bet $100 on it if I had $100. And I suspect then will Howard then bring back a motion for the resolution, or does staff do that since it's in the charter?
We will bring a resolution back at the next meeting.
And then I'll vote for that resolution to put it on the referendum, because if we're going to use the charter in one way, we need to use it in all ways. It's there. So I suspect that's what's going to happen.
So this thing that Commissioner Kessler has presented is the same thing that you said we were gonna have to do anyway according to charter?
That's correct.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so I have a question then for the county attorney. And you're referring to the vote that would take place on whether to adopt the ordinance at the
April
next meeting?
4th.
Right, and that is a pretty sure bet, I take it, you know. So what I had suggested, it doesn't sound like it would fly with what you just proposed, and that, as I said, would have a public hearing for the board to vote on it, and if the board failed to pass, to adopt, then there would be a prepared resolution that would be there, ready to go for the board to take the next step.
The public hearing is on the ordinance, and you'll hold that public hearing and vote yes or no on the ordinance. If you vote no, we'll bring a resolution back to you
Okay,
at the
so
next meeting.
I should change my motion.
To hold a public hearing to adopt
Well,
the
I
resolution.
guess I didn't read your motion
Well, it wasn't
that
in
way.
there, I just read it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that we all understand that what we're just voting on now is just the,
Advertise to hold a public hearing to adopt the resolution as
Ordinance.
as approved by Buddy Wells.
and that will be coming to us on April 7th, I believe, and depending on that vote,
This is simply a vote to hold a
Right.
public hearing, correct?
Las Vegas has it that we will have a resolution come at the second meeting.
If I was a betting man, I'd say yes.
I got you.
Now, here's an interesting quandary, if I could ask. Their ballot language, is the ordinance number the same that they're proposing to adopt?
There,
The referendum,
we'll have an ordinance number
There's not
that
a
would be
number.
assigned to it in sequential order from the ordinances we've adopted this
okay.
year.
Is there any difference between the ballot initiative ordinance and the ordinance we have effective as of today?
What the ballot initiative does is adopt the ordinance that we have in effect today and then adds,
The 5-0 portion.
yes.
Okay, so we're adopting an ordinance, it'll be 2014 dash whatever, 234, that says we're adopting the ordinance 2008-14 with these changes. That can't be modified by a 5-0 vote. That's what we're gonna be voting on.
That's correct.
5-0 vote or a vote of the people.
Right.
But this vote's simply for a public hearing.
Correct.
Okay, so, if there's no more discussion, all in favor for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Next, Heather, you have any attorney items?
Nothing tonight.
David, you have any county administrator items?
Yes, I have a couple items. We will be closing, we have a planned closing of the Wakulla County Community, Welcome Center. This Friday. We'll close it for about 3 weeks for repairs. We have some work on the decks that we need to do, as well as a couple other cosmetic, or not cosmetic things, but replace some siding where we're getting some leaking, etc. It won't be a full fix as far as everything that needs to be done at the Welcome Center, but at least it'll get it to where it's safer than what it is today. Secondly is on Wednesday the 26th, that's next Wednesday. Commissioners, I believe Commissioner Thomas has already signed up for it, but the Small County Coalition is having a meeting, a legislative update at 4:30 next Wednesday, as well as a dinner after that.
Free?
Yes, it's free. So you need to, I encourage y'all all to, if you can, attend that. You'll get a good update, as well as meet a lot of folks
Where's it gonna be?
in Tallahassee. Where is it, Commissioner Thomas?
I don't remember the location.
What's the date again?
We'll get the information.
Repeat the
to you.
date.
Wednesday.
Wednesday the 26th, starting at 4:30.
Legislative dinner.
The legislative update, and then the dinner's after that, and there'll be a speaker at the dinner. Then also we have a Gulf Consortium meeting as well. I believe it's the same day, if I'm not mistaken, so we'll be taking care of that. So that's all I had.
If I could add, there's also an ethics class next week. We all have to do that once a year, and you can do that through the Florida Association of Counties.
I'd like to ask a question. Last year, we were able to do that ethics online. We can still do that?
As far as I know, that was through the Commission on Ethics. If they're still offering those classes, you can take that as well.
She doesn't respond so far.
Make sure you get your certificate back to Heather too, by the way.
Heather does not need your certificate.
She's got mine over there.
And I'd like to make one comment on the ethics course, Mr. Chairman, if I could. You know, we all get very upset with unfunded mandates that the legislatures put on counties. We don't like being told what we have to spend money on. I don't particularly appreciate the legislature telling us we have to have so many hours of ethics classes, which exceeds what they have to do. So I think if they want us to do it and live by a certain code, they should be doing it also.
They don't comply with the sunshine law either, by the way. They don't apply that to
Yeah, there's lots of things they don't comply with.
Yes,
We want you to do it, but we're not gonna do it.
Right.
I understand, Ms. Kessler. I guess as long as they say we gotta do it, we gotta do it.
Okay.
All right,
That's all I got.
is that all you got? Okay, do I have any citizens to be heard for the second?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, I've only got 2 citizens for the second to be heard. The first one is Mr. Vic Lambu.
I don't pass.
Okay. Okay, Chuck Hess.
Chuck won't pass.
Well, I passed already once. I have to come up and say something this time. Interesting that you thought we had to spend money on the charter community. You know, it's 2 years ahead of time, I think, is what it is. But that's just, I guess, prepayment is, I don't know, always an option. But I always found it interesting when you change a rule because people are breaking it. So you have a road that you fix and you make it nice and smooth and you add a few feet on the wide and it's a lot nicer road, and then people are going to drive on it faster. So the question is what was the speed before you fixed it up and made it all wider and nicer and smoother? I live off Emmett Whaley, so it's, you know, yeah, it's really hard to stay under 30 now because the road is so nice. But there is a lot of people living right beside that, and it's right beside the public library. So there are issues why you might want to have it lower. So changing it just because people don't follow the rules doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
I'm sure you weren't the one driving 93, but anyway.
No, I don't drive that fast.
Okay, that's the last of our citizens. Okay, Mr. Merritt, we'll let you start with discussion.
All right. First, I need to apologize to Richard. Last meeting, I really should have pulled my item and put it under discussion. I'm sorry for putting you in that spot, and I apologize to you in the office there, but I wanted to publicly do it. I could have handled it better and just simply said I'll move it to discussion. Then we could have talked about it till he's blue in the face. Next thing is I just want to try to feel y'all out on a transportation mobility fee. Now, this goes back, I know Jerry's cringing right now, but this goes back to concurrency. Right now we have concurrency, and I'm going to ask Lou some questions if I could. Lou, with concurrency right now, let's take Zaxby's, for example. It just got built. They had to hire a consulting firm, right, to look at their trips, and they probably paid this consulting firm tens of thousands of dollars to show that they're not adversely affecting 319. Okay, what I'd like to see us do is get rid of concurrency altogether for any new business, any new house, and instead have a transportation mobility fee, which we can use to improve our intersections and improve our capacity. It's like an impact fee, but not exactly. Then now, Jerry's asking, well, what good would that, well, you know, what good does that do businesses? All right, if Zaxby's could have just paid a flat fee of what, 3, 4, I don't know, whatever it would be, nothing outrageous, I'm sure they'd a whole lot rather give the county $3,000 or $4,000 than give a traffic engineer $10,000 or $12,000. So the net gain will be pro-growth, and then we can, instead of the consultants getting that money, the money can come back to the county to be used to fund intersection improvements, because the way DOT's moving now is counties have to bring something to the plate. If we want something done on 319, we got to bring something to the plate too. And this is just a thought of how we could possibly do it. Now, I'd be interested to see what those numbers were.
Did Zaxby's have to do a concurrency?
Oh, yes, they did.
And what was their cost? Do you have an idea?
Well, I think Commissioner Merritt was speaking to the cost that they have to pay a consultant.
I agree with him. I'd rather much give it to the county than to give it to a consultant. So
I don't know what they charge the consultant.
if you can figure out what a certain size business is being charged by the consultants, then I could probably go along with that. If we can give the money to the county and not give it to the consultants.
They're not like lawyers. They don't really charge them out the yin yang, but you know, I mean, it's a significant amount of money. Well, I can assure you, whatever it is, will be less than what they're paying a consultant.
I can go along with that.
Well, I would also, you know, restrict that funding, that if you do go that route, which is a good idea, and I come from the development side as well. I'd rather see that money go into improvements on 319, and as you said, it's real important. We got to remember that DOT is they are asking what county you got to put up. You got to throw yours in. So I would say we would need to consolidate it into a fund. I know Greg loves to hear that word, to where it's for this mobility fee, if we go forward with it, is for 319 improvements, intersection improvements, and it stays there and it can't be plugged off anywhere else. It's just for that, for our match towards a.
And y'all know how I feel on the transportation impact fee. I think the impact fee from a single-family dwelling is more than offset by the 1 cent sales tax they're going to pay in the future. But I could see a logic for if it was we have a zero impact fee. Let's just say it was $50 for a mobility fee for a new construction single-family dwelling. That's not going to make or break a deal, but there would be some rhyme or reason to it. We get rid of concurrency. So you want to build a Publix, you don't need to come in and show you're not going to kill 319. You're going to come in and you're going to pay your mobility fee, and you're going to build your building.
You know, and that's a good statement, because Publix shows up, we're going to let them come in anyway. It doesn't matter whatever. When Publix shows up, you give them the kitchen.
And the reason why they can do that is because you can make a study show whatever you want.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Pay enough. That's and theoretically, at some point, with the system we have right now, we'd have a mom and pop business, or we'd have a Publix come in and say, we want to build a Publix in your community, and we'd have to say, sorry, we don't have the trips on 319. No more growth. Close the doors.
I would like to ask David then, if he would, to direct staff to come up with what has been paid on concurrency charges, and let's see if we can work out a
I would leave that to you to call people in the development business, and they're going to give you better answers than they are.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be glad to do that.
I would like us, just a head nod or whatever, to give them permission to start moving down that road. I can make it an official agenda item if you'd like.
That'd be good.
You want me to make an agenda item on it?
I mean, I'm certainly for looking at it. The other side of the coin that I see is we've taken a small fee and we're giving no consideration of whether someone's generating 1 car or 50,000 cars. And so I just see it as an invitation for us to be criticized without any data to back it up.
Of course, it would have to be based on logic. I mean, I think the current transportation impact fee is based on what, square footage or number of employees, or?
It's based on the number of trips you generate, which is
there's
sometimes
a
the square footage.
It's called ITE book. Institute of Traffic Engineers has a book about this thick. It shows every type of single-family dwelling, apartment, you name it, it's in there. And it says, if you have this many seats in your Burger King, this is how many trips per day you're going to generate. And if it was based off something like that, no one could ever argue with it, you know. But anyway, I'll bring it back as an agenda item.
Well, I think even before an agenda item, maybe you should have a workshop on it. But the question that I'm not clear on is, if your intent is to have less barrier to growth, business growth, and at the same time, how do you address not having a 319 that's going to be worse for commutes than it is right now? With you know, no matter how many mobility fees we collect, we're not going to be able to really have a big impact on 319. It's going to be the state. And
and if you look at DOT's level of service study they do every year, one of the recommendations that was consistently there year after year is encourage commercial development in Crawfordville to lessen the number of trips going back and forth to Tallahassee. I guarantee you, for just an example, when that Walmart got built, that stopped a lot of people from driving to Tallahassee. So there's capture trips and there's new generation trips. New generation trips, I think, would be more along the lines of houses, apartments, people coming into our community. Capture trips like Zaxby's, people aren't driving from Killearn to go eat at Zaxby's in Crawfordville. It's the people in Crawfordville not driving to Killearn because now they have a Zaxby's in. Just an example.
Yeah, see, all of that becomes a little bit more complicated, at least in my mind, I'm not going to drive up to Tallahassee to eat at Zaxby's when we didn't have Zaxby's here. But the people that are commuting to work, they have to go to Tallahassee. Right. And it just seems like, even with how many trips Walmart took off for the reasons people want to go to Walmart, now they can go right here. But the traffic on our roads has significantly increased. I don't think anyone would say that hasn't.
Well, the fundamental point I'm trying to make here is to get rid of concurrency, because it's really a fallacy. I don't think it's realistic to say that a Publix or a Wakulla Environmental Institute, that's an even better example, and we say, nope, you can't build down here because we don't have enough trips on 319. We're going to make it happen, because in order for us to get higher on the priority list, which we are, we're getting higher and higher and higher on 319, we have to have more problems. Unfortunately, that's just the way it works. It's like a bridge repair. They don't really look at it till it's fixing to fall in the water. And so I don't think we can just stop. That's not realistic, and say no more growth, shut the doors, nobody else can move here, any new business. We know it's going to happen. This is just a way to address it, and we can use the money putting towards projects we think will better the county.
And you're saying that our county staff has just the expertise as any other that would come from...
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. We had a transportation impact fee that had a logical rhyme and reason, right? That's already clearly spelled out how to charge that. But instead of calling it an impact fee, you call it a mobility fee, and in exchange you get rid of concurrency. So if you come pay your fee, basically that's kind of like an access charge for the sewer plant. You're paying your fee up front to get use of that road in whatever trips you're going to use, and then we use that money to put back into that road to improve it later on.
And if I could add, correct me if I'm on the wrong path here, but I believe at one time our procedure required us to have 2 engineers. You could hire your own engineer, and then you brought the paperwork to the county, and then the county hired an engineer. And
review the other engineer's work.
Absolutely. And I had a personal project that I was doing that got hung up for 4 months while these 2 engineers, who were both qualified, argued with each other and disagreed. And so, I think it's probably a good thing to consider.
We're at the level of service on 319 where we got to drop and punt. We got to do something. And getting rid of concurrency is one.
The only thing that we may do is we'll take a look at it, but that impact fee analysis needs to be updated. And we need to look at that. Let's look at it in staff, and it may be that if we see that we need to update it, we may come back to you guys and say, let's put it in the next budget year.
Well,
let's get it updated so that we got some factual.
This mobility fee doesn't necessarily have to be based on the impact fee study. Does it have, Heather, does the same justification criteria?
It's supposed to be the same.
It is. In fact, the Florida legislature has required that any mobility fee meet the same legal case law requirements as an impact fee. So you do have the same level.
Okay, just obviously something we're not going to do this month or probably even this year, sounds like, but
it just feels like we're opening the door to more congestion rather than not. And the other thing is, whether you call it mobility fee or call it an impact fee, and I think that one of the things that I'm guessing now, that between my position on impact fees and maybe the rest of the boards is very different, that I see the impact fees as being a fee that makes the people coming into our county pay their share, as opposed to having higher ad valorem and everything else that we'd have to do in order to do that. So I think there's a real use for impact fees, and I got what you're saying about the mobility, but I'm just very concerned about it.
Okay. Clear as a bell, right?
Clear.
Paige, could you put my picture up here? Next, I'm going to talk about the wetlands ordinance. This, and Heather has, how should I put this, has taught them in as nice a way as she possibly can to be not stepping on the county's toes. This is a guy's lot. Where's this at? On the Wakulla River? How long have they had it? Since the 50s? It's been platted or whatever?
They've owned it since the 80s.
All right. All right. So this is their lot, and you see the little yellow square, the triangle, I mean? That's the buildable area they have left after the 35-foot setback, right?
That's
Louis?
right.
That's not the 75-foot, that's the 35-foot. They have plenty of uplands to build their house on, but that, according to our ordinance, that's the area they have legally left to build their house. And I'm not even sure, is that one on the right hand? Anyway, the one closest to 98, that's right? There's no wetland on 98 out there infringing on them?
That's right. The wetlands along the Wakulla River to the south.
And after talking with the county attorney, the best way I could say this is, you can come to your own conclusions on whether that's a buildable area or not. How many square feet is that? 600 square feet?
Less than 600.
Okay, if you're Frank Lloyd Wright, maybe you want to build a triangle-shaped house, 2-story, on that 600 square foot pad, but you couldn't put a septic tank there. You couldn't put really anything else there. You couldn't clear it to park. Well, this is what I've been opposed to on this wetlands ordinance the whole time. There's no variance procedure for that. The referendum that's on the ballot has no variance procedure. I'm not saying that piece of property is useless, but you come to your own conclusions on that. Now, I think there's a lot of them out there, but this one just happened to show up. I know this gentleman over here is in a very similar situation where they, what did you tell me to say, Heather? Maximum enjoyment or something like something? Full use?
Oh, reasonable and beneficial use?
Yes, something like that. Anyway, come to your own conclusions. You see it. Is that where you'd want to build a house, and is that the size you'd want to build a house?
He's not trying to build a house. He's
Well,
trying
okay.
to
Anyway, this is a clear picture for the public to see of exactly what. Now, one more thing, Harold, and I'll let you say
Okay.
it. Clear picture for the public to see of the consequences of our current ordinance. And if this referendum is adopted, that's the law of the land right there. There is no variances allowed inside the 35 feet, even if it makes your property only usable to that point. And having said that, there has been some talk around here about, well, and Howard, specifically, I'm speaking to you because we've talked about this before. Well, you would entertain variances within the 35
Talked about
feet.
this before in the board meeting
Yes, sir.
setting? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, no, not on a bar somewhere.
All right.
And I asked about variance procedures, and you indicated devil's in the details, you were saying, but you were willing to talk about it.
Correct.
Well, we can't even consider a variance for 2 years. If this passes in November, we can't even talk about a variance procedure for situations like this for 2 years, which is the next general election. All right? Let's assume the board is the same makeup at that point. Who knows? Whatever. Even after that, if this referendum passes, it takes a 5-0 vote to make any change. To me, that puts, at least in the composition of this board, it puts all the power in one person's pocket, which is the person, and I think that's inherently circumnavigating, I guess is the best word. We have a representative form of government, and I think that just totally takes it out. Just imagine, for you will, and Howard, I hate to keep talking to you, but I really am talking to you. Imagine for a second you won Powerball, and you decided you take your $500 million and you're going to go around the world and do good deeds. So you resign your board position. Governor appoints Bob Danzy to your seat for whatever reason, and then we vote 5-0 to never have another wetlands ordinance without a 5-0 vote, and it passes 5-0 because of the composition of the board. I mean, does that seem fair? Even if you had like-minded people that had 4 of them that thought the same way you did, to make it a 5-0 vote, to me, takes the entire representative government thing out of it. I'm not going to be voting for the referendum, by the way. So, anyway, that's my piece.
All right, I'm gonna,
Well,
are you wanting to respond to what he said before I move to Commissioner?
Please.
I'm sure he is.
I tell you what, let me ask a question. I'm gonna move right on down. Whenever we get to you, I'll let you respond.
Well, no, I think when we discuss an issue, we should be discussing the issue.
Go ahead.
I agree.
Go ahead.
So, there's several things, there's several things that I think we would speak about. One is, this piece of property, if you've gone out to take a look at it, I think has a lot of legitimate swamp on it. okay? Cypress knees, all that kind of good stuff.
Do you agree
Okay.
with the delineation?
I'm going to assume the delineation is correct.
Okay.
Okay? So this is basically a piece of property that, that is mostly wetland. Okay? So that's one given. And so when someone buys something like that, they're thinking that's what they want, okay, for whatever purposes.
Can I respond to that real quickly since we're bantering?
We weren't bantering before.
Well, we could have.
We used to. No, you said wait, wait until I'll finish, you know?
One more point. If they own this prior to 95, and agree, and if I'm wrong, tell me this. If they owned it prior to 95, these would have not been there. Because I've heard you say before, you bought a swamp, you own a swamp. But what if they've owned that lot?
Lots of people have said that.
Yeah, well, okay. So what if they've owned the lot prior to the comp plan adoption in
Yeah,
95?
and that's why I said to you and to the board that I certainly was open to looking at variance procedures. Also want to clear up that, and so I'll get back to that piece of property in a second since we're in another direction right now. There is a certain value to the buffer, whether you want to say that the buffer is 600 feet or 35 feet. I mean, science is very clear. There is no doubt on the value of the buffer, and we can provide you that very simply in graphic and chart forms to show you. In development of our county, we learn from past mistakes, hopefully. Hopefully we'll never plat out another subdivision like Wakulla County without infrastructure being there.
Wakulla Gardens.
I'm sorry, Wakulla Gardens, without infrastructure being there. So there's value to the buffers, and there's value in protecting our natural resources, and I think we owe it to ourselves and to the future of Wakulla County to understand that. As far as it being written in stone in 2 years coming and only in this one commissioner that's going to hold the other commissioners at bay, you used the word reasonable when you were talking about mobility fees. I used the word reasonable when talking about board action. The citizens of this county, because this is a charter county and because it's a voice of the people, they also will be able to, if they feel that there's need for a variance, or the charter committee, whatever the new charter committee sits, it may think there's need for a variance, okay, if this, in the future. Yeah, but in other words, it's not going to happen right now. 2014, there's not going to be a variance procedure other than
When you say the citizens, you're talking about a second referendum in 2016, maybe, because that's the only way you can modify it, is either
There's only two ways to modify it.
5-0
One
vote
is
or referendum.
5-0 vote, right, or referendum,
Right.
correct.
If it passes.
Well, if I were a betting man, like you said before, I would take your bet. I think it's going to overwhelmingly pass. So the issues are not just in protecting our environment and having a way that this can be changed, and it can be changed.
2 years.
But it's, yes, and that's because we didn't change it before. We're here because this board pushed the issue. We're here because this board said, we're not waiting, okay? We want to throw out what previous boards have done, okay? Decades.
And what was the waiting part for the referendum?
Well, not just for the referendum, to have workshops, to work on, there are a couple of amendments to the present ordinance that I brought forward. All of that could have happened if there wasn't this rush to throw out, eliminate from our comprehensive plan and eliminate our wetlands ordinance entirely. This board voted to do both of those things.
Not to be argumentative, but
Okay,
you brought those variances up well after the Wetlands Alliance was well into their petition process. You know as well as I do, if we'd have went along with your variance procedure, which says seawalls, it would have made absolutely no difference whatsoever, because they were not going to change the ballot language to reflect your compromise changes. It was a ceremonial gesture. I'll give it to you for doing it, but you and I both know it really didn't. It wouldn't have went anywhere.
It would have went somewhere in the sense that would have shown what at least I was willing to step forward and do, and entertain your possible.
And I've brought mine up several times too.
Well, I hope you had brought it up in writing. It would have been nicer. But I think that we may have a 2-year period where things don't happen to variances, but during that period of time, we sure can straighten it out. Just like we straightened out things from the original 2010 ordinance. Yeah.
Good talk. This is the only time we can really talk. I can't call Howard at home and say, hey, what do you think about it?
Yeah, no, this is wonderful. I mean, this is wonderful.
We don't agree, but at least we can
Right.
talk about it.
And so getting back to a piece of property like this, which is really, I think you want to really put me on the spot, okay, and say, well, what would you do in a piece of property like this? And I say to you, in a piece of property that was before 1995, and we have this situation, I would like to sit down. Well, if I was the planning board, he's constrained within the proper thing, you know, and rightfully so. I mean, but the board can develop sort of guidelines, not sort of guidelines, guidelines that said, here's how we're going to handle these things for everyone on a level playing field. And not because this person's a friend, they're going to be able to build on 4 times that, and because this person isn't a friend, they're going to be stuck with that.
Which is exactly what I proposed, by the way, but you're talking about 2016 as soon as we could do that, and it would have to pass with a 5-0 vote. That was my point about the 5-0 vote. It's 2016 is as soon, even if you were amicable to it and agreed that this is a bad situation, needs to be rectified, we couldn't do anything about it till 2016.
Right. There's a 2-year potential.
That was my point.
Correct.
I suspect you would be willing to let this person use their property. You know, they have uplands on they could build on. I had suspected that, but my point is we couldn't do anything for 2 years if this referendum passed.
I'd have to take, I mean, I'm not totally familiar with this, but I've looked into this piece of property.
I'm not going to put you on the spot.
But, yeah, I'd be willing to look at that. I'd be willing to look at any kind of variance procedure.
If I could comment, I'd just like to make sure people know that are watching this. This gets kind of convoluted, I think, sometimes, and we're all passionate about where we stand on this issue. What this breaks down to is these folks apply to build today, we're going to have to tell them no. And we're going to have to tell them no because we have a local wetlands ordinance. If we get rid of our wetlands ordinance, as we have already proposed to do, then these folks will be allowed to build. Now, they will not be able to be allowed to build in the wetlands. That's an important distinction. The north part of that is uplands area. The state regulations are ample to protect the wetlands. They will not be allowed to build in the wetlands just because they want to get closer to the river. Now, if the citizens of our county vote yes on this referendum, and it comes back as it stands today, now these folks will again not be able to allow to build on their property. So the state will tell them, yes, we're okay, wetlands will be protected. The EP has already told us that this is no adverse impact to our wetlands. Wakulla County will come along and say, no, our rules are tighter, we want more protections. We all realize that more buffer provides more protection. That's just a logical thing. But is it required? So when we tell them no after the state has told them yes, now we're the source of the lawsuit. When you take someone's property legislatively by ordinance, then that's called a taking. We need to be prepared when we take people's property to compensate them for that. So if we've got people out there that are planning on voting yes for this thing, if you've ever wanted to own a piece of Wakulla River property, this might be your opportunity. The only problem is you may be buying it with your taxpayers' dollars, and it may be not available to you. And this is just one of many properties that are going to be in this category if folks vote yes. You have a right to vote. You have a right to vote no to protect your property rights.
And,
violated all of
Mr.
Heather's rules.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman,
the
please.
use of the...
You didn't tell me the
use
rules.
of the word taking of property as applies to even this piece of property is false. It's not a taking. We have ordinances that say if you are going to build your house, you will be, and correct me if I'm wrong or don't correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just going to use examples, and you're going to be 15 feet away or 25 feet away from a street or your neighbor's house. That strip of land you're not going to be able to build on. That's not a taking. You still own the land. This person still owns this piece of property. We're not taking anything away from them. But what we are saying, and the citizens are saying, in Wakulla County, it's important to protect our natural resources. And it's important to have buffers. And when you're saying that you can build right up until the wetland, you're providing with no buffer. And I think that's wrong.
I want to say a few things. All right, this piece of property, there's several properties like this in our county. And properties like this are the exact reason that I've held the position that I have held throughout this, that I'm going to be voting against the referendum coming in November. I believe in individual ownership of property. I believe the owner himself should have the ability to decide for himself what's the best use for his property. The example that was given by Commissioner Kessler, that the owner should recognize the collective good of everything, and that the owner should manage his property according to the collective good. I think that's the exact opposite of individual private property ownership, and I think that's the exact opposite of what our founders intended. I believe someone who owns property, they should be allowed to use that property. There's also another thing I've been strongly about is in the 2006 ordinance, the first wetlands ordinance had the grandfathering clause that was in it. Whenever the ordinance was rewritten in 2010, it didn't have the grandfathering clause in it. If we still had it, that I think this property would pass. But if the referendum passes in November, it's still not going to have a grandfathering in there. So that's a problem with me as well. I think people that own their land like this, I think they should be allowed to be grandfathered in if they had it. You know, my own family, the land that my own family lives on has been in our family since 1859. You know, well, that's a long time. That's a long time to be in one family to all of a sudden not have use of certain parts of it. So I'm very much in favor with individual ownership and individual rights of the owner versus the collective.
Would you put the diagram back up, whoever's got that?
Actually went to the bathroom.
Ouch. Well, while she's gone, if you looked at that diagram, a third of that property is upland. The person can build on a fingernail part of that third of that property. And if you look at it real close, that person is a football field. That sliver that he can build on is 313 feet from the Wakulla River. How in the world is he going to damage the Wakulla River? How is he going to damage the wetlands when a third of that property is upland and he can still only build on a fingernail? We just had 5 inches of rain in the county. In Panacea we had 5 inches. And for you people who are listening to this, look around your house, look around your farm. You've probably got standing water. And the county, if this ordinance passes, the county could very well say that now you're in a wetland, that you've got to back up from that standing water 75 feet. So while we're in the heavy part of the water, just look around. If that water is there 3 or 4 days, just look around. You may be, by county judgment, living in a wetland. So take a look.
Mr. Chairman, what was just said is totally false. You can't have a rainfall on a piece of upland property, have it sit there for 5 days or a week, and then call it a wetland. That's not how wetlands are identified. That's completely false.
While we're on the subject, are any of you guys, when I say you guys, I mean Ralph, Richard, and Jerry, is any of y'all going to bring up the wetlands ordinance again, or is it y'all's intention to let it go to the referendum and do nothing till then?
Go to the referendum.
Okay. Is that what the general consensus is? Okay, so there's not gonna be any repealing of the ordinance before the referendum?
As far as I'm concerned, I mean, it's already seen that the citizens have followed the procedure for it to go on the referendum.
No, I understand
Well,
that.
now,
We can
now wait a minute,
still
let me
do-
clarify. We voted at one point to eliminate the buffers, which we did,
Comp plan, in the comp.
in the comp plan. We voted to eliminate the wetlands ordinance.
Did we do that?
We did.
No,
Yeah,
you voted to do that, but you haven't followed through on it.
We
Well, if
directed
if
staff,
the board has voted to
we
direct
directed staff to bring that back to us for a
to
decision.
delete it.
Absolutely.
Okay, is that the understanding you have? That's not the understanding I understood
Not the
you had.
understanding I had.
Yeah, there was different directions, and the initial direction was, the first
You brought
direction
it up.
was to get rid of the wetlands
You brought it up.
ordinance.
Actually, I did.
He did.
So
When you made your
I was actually
proposal
dead.
to have the
Variance,
variance procedure,
right.
Richard made a motion to eliminate the whole ordinance.
Okay.
And that has not been addressed, and that's been many months that has not come back. And so, to answer your question, I don't feel that I
It's already
need...
been done then. That's-
Exactly.
I've
It's
answered
already
my
been
question.
done.
Louis, does that answer? Because you were kind of ambiguous on what direction the board wanted to go, but if it's already voted to get rid of the wetlands ordinance, is that your understanding also?
No, I mean, I think there was direction, but I think there was different directions given by the board, so I don't have clear direction that we are to move forward on repealing the wetlands ordinance.
There's
If
some
the board
parts
wants
they
to
wanna
make that
keep in
clear.
the wetlands ordinance. There's some parts they want to keep, and but I think that the
That's not board direction, though.
was the buffers,
Yeah.
to get rid of
That was
the
not
buffers.
board direction. Let's
There was
let's
a,
pull it,
there
let's
was
pull
a
it back up.
second, there was a second vote when it dealt with the, as the board was going down the road of eliminating things from the comprehensive plan. And I think that those were there was a different path spelled out by staff at that time.
I
And
know that Louis doesn't have clear direction. Ralph,
Well,
if you're going to make it a motion on the
well,
item.
let me clarify.
Okay.
Let me bring up the point where I'll pull it back out, I'll send it to Louis, because to me it's clear. We can look at the video, we can look at the minutes, we can look at the vote. We voted to eliminate the ordinance, plain and simple.
100%.
At 100%.
That
If
was
I'm
a
wrong,
4-1 vote,
I
I
will
believe.
apologize here at our next
Well-
meeting, and I'll take out an ad in the
I
paper,
think-
but I know I'm right.
So, Mr. Thomas, I'm pretty sure is right, 100%.
yeah, and I agree that we
Because-
did vote to eliminate the wetland. I didn't vote. The board voted.
You said we.
Yeah.
You voted, you just voted against it.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct. But I believe we have to go back into the minutes after that vote and look at the process as spelled out by staff and recommendations from staff that the board may have voted on also and may be in conflict with that.
And we'll look back at, but I believe what happened was every time staff brought that up, that never went, those recommendations never went forward. So now that Mr. Thomas said, our standing is to eliminate the wetlands
Because
ordinance.
there's major
Because
ramifications.
we had Louis had brought back certain things, but the board did not agree on that, so therefore, I think that's what we have
And the
to do
reason
about
I asked that, if I could, real quickly, is there's major ramifications, and here's what they are. If this referendum goes forward, and we have our existing ordinance today, it's not gonna change a whole lot if the referendum passes, except that we can't change it in the future. If we have no ordinance, and the referendum passes, it's just like, if we vote to get rid of the ordinance, tomorrow, that guy has all his property rights back. And I know Heather hates me saying this.
Which he should have.
Okay, all right.
He shouldn't even have to
Okay.
ask us
As
for
of that
it. He
date-
should go to his constitution and realize that he has those property
That's
rights.
not my point. Here's my point. He has all his property rights back that day. November 6th, if the referendum passes, he just had all those rights taken right back from him again. That, to me, I mean, there's certain legal issues where if we kept it the way it is now, they probably wouldn't have a case to sue the county. They could, but probably not.
But we would have taken his
Hold on,
property.
Hold on. Yes. Well,
Not
Heather
taking
said not
anybody's
use the word
property.
taking.
Be
I'm
easy with
saying,
that word
come to
taking.
your own conclusion. My point is, and this is kind of a, I don't know, kind of a risky road to
I
take.
think we need to get Heather's clarification. She wants to speak.
No, Commissioner Merritt's right. If you
Thank
take it
you.
off, and we've said this before to the board, both verbally and in agenda items in writing, if you remove the wetlands ordinance and you remove the 75-foot buffer from the code of ordinances now. It's already out of your comp plan. If you move it out of your code of ordinances and then it's put back in by citizen referendum, under the right set of circumstances, a judge could determine that a taking or a Burt Harris claim is right.
Now, there's two ways to look at that. Number one is to look at it from Howard's side. Sorry, Howard, just you don't do it because you could cost the county a lot of money. The other side is look at it from Ralph's side. Well, let's go ahead and get rid of it, and then when we go to talk to the citizens, if you want to vote for this thing, get ready to shell out millions of dollars because it's going to be a taking. Whereas if we kept it, it might not necessarily be one.
Here's what it boils down to. Whether we make a determination of whether that's a taking, that's got to be decided by a judge, I understand. But if we're at risk, if there's a situation where that property and many others like it are at risk of being a taking, they will also be a risk of being a taking if this ordinance comes back. So right now, there is some degree of risk of that this property, the owners of these properties could file a takings claim against us. If we eliminate the ordinance, then there is zero risk. We have reduced the risk that now there's no chance because of our wetlands ordinance that we have taken their property. So the citizens need to realize that if they vote yes, now they're bringing us back to the exact same risk we're at today. We need to be clear about that. I am perfectly fine with us eliminating this wetlands ordinance as quickly as we can get it back.
I'm not trying to passionately advocate. I'm just trying to explain my understanding. Tell me if I'm wrong, and I'm not saying which course of action to take. My point is this. When we get rid of the wetlands ordinance, which the staff direction has, on that day, there are no restrictions on your property, even the restrictions that have been vested, because apparently when the comp plan was adopted in '95, there was an appeal period. Theoretically, that person could have went to the appeal and says, hey, I want to appeal. You're taking my property, blah, blah, blah. That 1-year period expired. They didn't say anything, so theoretically, they've been warned, right? Basically.
There are numerous defenses that the county would have today
Very good.
due to the
there are numerous defenses.
enactment date.
Let's say if we left it the way it is today, and again, I'm not saying what to do, we've already given direction. If we leave it the way it is today, there may be a 5% chance that person would win. If we get rid of the ordinance 100%, and then the referendum passes, there may be a 90% chance that person would win. Is that a good analogy?
I can't give you percent chances,
Okay.
but the risk goes up.
The risk goes up exponentially.
And if folks vote no on this ordinance, where does the risk go then?
Goes to zero.
Zero.
You're right.
That's
what I'm saying the risk is. On your side of the camp, it's a point to say, don't vote for the referendum because you're going to put the county at risk for losing millions.
Let's vote for zero. That's a good idea for me.
But on Howard's side, he could say, do vote for the ordinance. Well, that takes that point out, doesn't it?
Yes.
It would be back to strictly wetlands
Well,
protection.
Let's go for zero.
First of all, and of course there's a huge difference of opinion with even the terms that we're using, taking when taking shouldn't be used as a word in reference to this piece of property. So I'll ask the county
And why is
attorney-
that?
Because it's not a taking. Is it a taking every time the building department says or the planning department says you have to build your house 15 feet away from this structure or 25 feet away as a minimum from the road? Is that a taking?
So they could still build it because they could put a tree stand there, or a tree house, or
Is it a taking when you have a swamp and you want to build in it? You're talking about different things at different times. Let's talk about one thing. You're talking about the inability to use part of your land because it's designated as a buffer.
All. Inability to use all in this case. All.
Yeah, and we should make the law applicable to the most extreme case. And
we should follow the Constitution, and we should pay people.
Constitution of the United States, I don't think applies here as far as, no, this is an issue of state and county, and this is local government. And when we have a situation which that's our job as county commissioners, that's what Commissioner Merritt was bringing up with forms of variances. It's not either or, all or nothing. There's a balance. If you don't give a darn about your resources in the county, then build right up to that wetlands. But if you care about what's going to happen in the future and you care about our kids' future generations, you don't want to build right up to that wetland.
That's collectivism, Mr.
You
Commissioner.
call it whatever you want, you know, we had, you know, collectivism, there's something, why do we have codes about building? Why do we have planning and zoning laws that stop a person from building above 50 feet? It's his property, let him build a 100-foot skyscraper. Let everyone just disregard all of our local rules, you know, and then extend it to your cars and let them go through traffic lights. I mean,
The only difference, Howard, I can see with that argument is this is the only regulation I know of that doesn't let you do anything with it. Now, I understand
no,
zoning laws.
that's not true. That's not true.
Well, I guess you could stand on it, but you
No,
know.
no. Even in the buffers in both wetlands ordinances.
Let's go back to that particular case, okay?
You can build a walkway out to that water, okay? You can build a dock in that water, okay? You can launch from there, okay? You can do things, okay? You can build a shed. I mean, there are things that you can do, okay? It's not all or nothing. And I agree, in this extreme case, that I am totally, I'm not 100% familiar with it, okay? But if there's a way of allowing a minimal structure to go up there and compromise, I'm willing to look at it.
2 years from now.
That's what this board has caused.
Okay.
Okay, that's what this board has caused. If this board had not been on the rampage to throw out our local wetlands protections from our comp plan and our ordinance, these are the discussions that could have been had in workshops that the citizens were denied to allow that discussion of variance. I'm finished.
Gary? I think I've said enough.
I'm glad you brought it up so we could clarify that apparently staff didn't understand the direction that we've given them, and if we're wrong, we'll clarify that, but I think it was clear.
I'd like to ask the county attorney a question, and if you can't answer this, I accept that. But in this specific piece of property, I know you're sick of it.
No, I just don't want to. I don't want to get into hypotheticals about.
No. This is not a.
She hates the T word.
Okay. Let's assume that everything that's there is exactly correct. Well, that's a hypothetical then. I'm sorry, but with the ordinances that we have in place right now, is this a taking?
Ooh, Howard, you used the T word.
Taking is a judicial determination that a judge has to make.
Not going to answer that
I don't think she needs to answer that, Howard.
It's not a taking until the judge says it is.
So it's not a taking, but are they prohibited from building the retirement home they're wanting to build at the end of their lifetime?
Depends on what kind of home you want to build. I'll go ahead and answer for. If you like
Guys,
triangle houses,
let me just
then
caution
no.
you.
You're
I mean,
not
I really
prohibited.
don't want to sit in here in a public meeting
Right.
and discuss a potential issue where a citizen may be looking to bring legal action against
I've
the
talked to
county.
Heather
It
about
doesn't
Absolutely
do
agree.
the county any
Gotcha.
good for
I
me
agree.
to sit here and do that.
I agree also. I would invite the public to take a look at that and decide for themselves. I don't need a law degree. I don't need an environmental degree. I don't need to be a constitutional scholar to tell you that if I want to build a house on a half acre with a third of it in the uplands and I can only build a 15 by 30 foot structure, I don't have to be educated to know that that doesn't work and somebody is taking my rights away from using my property.
I've talked to Heather about this so much. If y'all ever need me to translate for her, I think I could do it now.
Hey, have you got anything else, Commissioner Merritt?
Oh, no.
All right, Commissioner Moore? All right, some things, there's two things that I wanted to bring up and ask the board's procedure on. I spend a lot of time talking to citizens, try to respond to them. I spend a lot of time going to whenever citizens calls me to come look at a situation that they have. There's several evenings a week where I'm going and visiting someone at their home or visiting their road or doing what I can to lay eyes on what their problem is so I best can understand it and know how to present it. There's two common things that here lately has been coming up a lot. And the first one is, I know we don't have an open landfill anymore. I know we have that, but whenever citizens have debris like limbs and all gathered up and they have pile, what is the procedure that they need to follow in order to dispose of those limbs?
We do not have a collection service for that.
Okay, that's the answer that I've been.
Nor do we have a
They were taking them at the
landfill for that.
landfill, though. Right? Aren't they taking green waste?
Right.
Did
They
it?
do? And they also have a dumpster now, because I had a call from
Well,
a
I
guy that was
didn't know.
doing
Sorry
clean
about
outs of houses. foreclosure cleanouts.
So the landfill does take green waste.
And they take household garbage too, right?
They just have to pay to, they have
There's
to
a
pay to
fee,
bring it,
that's
dump
right.
it.
Pay the fee, that's right.
But they, and they themselves have to haul it. The county's not gonna come pick it up.
Now,
Okay.
they will, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but when Waste Pro, if you have like a couch or something, you can put that out there and call for collection, they'll come pick it up. Now, what are you talking about specifically, limbs?
Well, the thing that every now and then that there's some citizens who they pile some debris up on their land, but they either don't have a vehicle to haul it or no one to haul it, and they've got it piled up, and they were wondering if the county would be, if they called the county, would the county come and collect that debris?
Green waste?
Green waste,
I
green
assume they
waste.
don't live in Smith Creek or something,
Right,
because obviously they
right.
burn it.
Green waste.
That's what I do, yeah.
It stood around
The
spiraling.
county's not gonna go on private property and pick up
All right,
that,
but
nor do we have a service to go pick up green waste.
but if they can transport it to the landfill, then
Yes.
the landfill will accept it.
That, well, the landfill, there's a dumpster there, and
Yeah.
Okay.
How much
It'll
is
be
a
hauled
ton,
off.
Cleve, you know off the top of your head? $65 a ton.
we no longer
$65
have an
ton.
active landfill.
Okay. The other thing that the biggest thing lately I've been having to respond to is there's certain small, I think it's been brought up before, there's certain small roads to where between the Waste Pro dump truck and the school bus going over it just ruts it all to pieces, where even the people that live on that road are having a hard time traveling it. And in some cases it gets so bad to where the school buses themselves are not able to traverse it. What's the procedure that citizens need to follow in that?
I'd like to hear the answer to this too.
Because that's the most common thing I'm hearing now.
So what is
that-
the answer to that, Cleve? I know what it is, but you say it.
That's the most common thing that I'm hearing now is just between dump trucks, between Waste Pro trucks and school buses, some small roads are being really eat up.
Most of the roads you are talking about are private roads.
Yeah.
And when we went out and investigated them, there are roads that are not being maintained by the HOA or the landowners to start with.
So
They can always take their trash cans down to the county road where we maintain it.
So if it's not a county maintained road, then they would have to find the means themselves to.
It's like a driveway, basically.
That's right.
But Waste Pro, Commissioner Thomas, we just dealt with a case where Waste Pro has stepped up and went and solved a problem very similar to what you're talking about. So Waste Pro has tried. We get involved in it, but for most part, unfortunately we find these roads are, when they call and say the garbage truck is tearing up the road, there's already a history of the road with the Public Works. Had never been maintained. It's not the trash trucks that are doing it.
It's just
the lack of maintenance.
It's not a
here.
maintained road.
Right.
Cleve,
And they will provide a small. When they go out and look, they will provide a small truck if necessary. But again, those are just case by case basis.
And it's not a small truck, like a Toyota or something.
It's just a smaller truck than the big one.
I think, Cleve, you have a hazardous waste pickup this Saturday at
With
the
a
Trice
hazardous
Lane?
waste drop-off, yes.
A hazardous waste.
And computer stuff, right?
And
Just
computer
to reiterate that.
That's
Very important.
this Saturday at Trice Lane. Cleve is going to be unloading your cars of any
With your help.
with your help.
Cleve, you may want to, Cleve, while we're talking about hazardous waste, mention the paint, commercial paint.
There's been one issue that's come up, and we've actually changed the ad in the paper this week that certain small quantity generators or small contractors can apply for an exemption through DEP to bring their waste to Amnesty Day or to dump it off. There's a process to go through with DEP, but it's still a commercial business dumping the waste off. Once we receive that waste, we pay, the county pays. Again, this is free to the citizens. It's not free to the county. Every time you bring us oil-based paint or mineral spirits or just whatever, I'm not a painter, so I just it costs this county $5 a gallon to dispose of it. It is not cheap. Latex paint, you can dry latex paint, take the top off of it, put it in a dry spot, let it dry itself. You can put it in your garbage can. It don't need to be liquid. Put some sand in it, let it dry. few days in the sun and let it dry out. Latex paints are not hazardous. You don't, by no means do we ask people, telling people to put it on the ground, but dry it out and you can dispose of it. But typically what we get a loss of, and I didn't bring the invoice with me, but we paid thousands of dollars to take oil-based paints and varnishes out at $5 a gallon to dispose of. It's just like everything else, and in the world today, expenses have gone up.
Do y'all do the swap out there where if you show up to dump something and you see some 5 gallons of, used to be you see 5 gallons of, say, deck stain out there, you can take it home with you?
Yes, we do. We do that. There is a free table, and as you drop it off, you can, if you see something you want, people are constantly picking it up and taking it home or switching out, whatever. But the latex paint, Jefferson County, for residents, the latex paint is taken back to Jefferson County, who is part of our grant, or who is the host county for this process. We aren't the host county. Jefferson County is the host county, and we're part of this grant process. They will take the latex paint back to their facility. They've got a mixing facility where they'll take good latex paint and make a
that's what Jerry can do, is just mix a bunch
make
together
a what?
and paint your house.
Make usable paint. They remarket it. They come out in 5 gallons bucket. They can't guarantee what color it is, but you can get 5 gallons of paint. It's typically kind of a off-white color. What they say
Like
comes out.
I don't see an issue with that at all.
That's great.
Yeah.
Like
At least it's getting
But
used.
I think the point that Cleve's getting to is
it's not open to commercial.
It's not open,
Yeah.
and if you have the exemption, if a commercial painter has the exemption, they still have to pay. They'll have to pay the $5.
We're charging
gallon.
them what we're being charged to take the waste out, and that's $5. At the last amnesty day, it equated to $5 a gallon to remove from this county.
I think we had 4 55-gallon drums,
That's
something
what I was
like
trying
that.
I wish they'd brought that invoice with us, but we went back
It
through
was
there.
on up there. Yeah, it was very expensive. We only
got
get
more
a
than Jerry did.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Cleve. Thank
Okay,
you. Okay, Commissioner Thompson?
Yeah, I'd like to give a community center update from the Coalition of Youth. Anyone that's interested in community center functions, their information is now linked to the county website at mywakulla.com, so check that out. It's starting to fill in.
How's that doing? They're getting a lot of people out there.
It's coming together. They're starting to bring programs. We had, just in the month of February, we've had people inquire about reunions, weddings, Boy Scout meetings, bike rodeos, game nights, library reading program, health department, health-focused classes. So all that is coming as part of the ounce of prevention grant that we received.
What is your feeling, Ralph, on wedding receptions? I don't want to open this can of worms.
Randy.
Just brought it up for just a quick
But you're
blush.
gonna do
We
it.
tried at
You're
the
gonna
old
do
courthouse
it.
one time. People want to be able to drink champagne or whatever at wedding reception.
Randy.
That really didn't go anywhere. I didn't know what your thoughts on it were. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not in a position to back that at all. I don't. That was pretty ugly. I was sitting out in the audience last time. I wasn't up here, but I don't think that went over very well.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't back that either.
Yeah. They can have a drink at home or somewhere else. Let's see, what else? The Sheriff's Department has a youth athletics program that's starting to come on board as part of that grant. You may remember when we were talking about how we move forward, one of the proposals that I had was to implement the 21st Century Learning Center that's currently located in our county. Well, that opportunity is possibly back on the table again. And the Coalition of Youth and TCC have started negotiations. Some county staff and we've been there and just started that conversation. So obviously we got to get that to the point where we could bring it back to this board and we'll decide. The merits of that, if we bring that, I think there's 115 to 140 kids that are already enrolled in that program. That grant program brings in $600,000 that could be used to, for jobs and employment and equipment and programs. And so if we're able to implement that along with the ounce of prevention fund grant that we have, we're looking $800,000 or $900,000 that could be used to have a good viable program without having to dip into our strained resources here locally. Couple big events that are coming up. Friday, April 11th is the grand opening of the center from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. The entire community is invited. And on Thursday, April 17th, 6 to 8 p.m., the Wakulla Working Waterfronts Project will unveil 45 photographs depicting the maritime heritage of Wakulla County. This is local photographers and local fishermen. It just helps us capture the culture and the history of our county. So that will be open at that night. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Do you have any items?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have on the lift station at Hickory Park, 5-year master plan, and things that we need to do. And I may have mentioned it earlier in the evening that the fix on this station is estimated at $300,000. And I don't know what has gone wrong. It seems like this lift station was a problem from its inception. And I don't know if Commissioner Merritt had Cleve's job at that time or not.
Let me think. Yes.
Okay, perfect then. Perfect. So maybe you can help me out of why we have, I mean, it seemed like from the start, even the location of it with its vision as you turn down roads, but why are we having so much trouble with this?
Probably because it's the main, Cleve, I don't want to step on your toes about this. It is the main lift station in Crawford. Everything from Wakulla Springs to River Springs Middle School, Elementary School, everything north of Sonic, and everything out east goes to that lift station. It's the main lift station for the Crawford area. And is it triplex pumps now or still duplex?
It's duplex. We're going to upgrade it to triplex.
Okay. It's a major lift station. And then if that's, I guess it just statistically, if there's problems, it's just because it gets so much flow.
Was it under-designed or?
No, it was designed, like I said, it was designed for 3 pumps, triplex. It's been running for years on 2. It was designed to be upgradable, I guess is the
and
best
that
way.
we are going to upgrade it to a triplex station.
It pumps from there, if I could, it pumps from there to Medard Elementary School.
Yeah.
Without any interim pumps in between it.
It receives waste all the way from Wakulla Springs, and we actually have water stay in the lines for days to get down to that lift station, and the sulfides are released. We've got an odor control in the with carbon filters, but and it's worked pretty good over the since we've installed it. But it's apparently I haven't been hearing lots of complaints about it lately. So.
No, I haven't been hearing complaints about it lately, but I sure heard my fill in the past. But what I'm concerned about with this is just the money that we're going to have to expend.
And the sulfides have eaten up the structure that houses the pumps right now. And going forward, we're putting a fiberglass insert into the existing concrete structure. We'll have to bypass the station a few days, but put a concrete insert in there. I mean, a fiberglass insert into the concrete structure to protect or make it structurally sound again. And the fiberglass is not susceptible to deterioration for sulfides.
In other words, to translate for Cleve, the longer the the longer the sewer.
I mean, I'm not the only one you translate
Yeah,
for?
Cleve, he's going around.
When you have a source point that's far away, like we'll call it.
No, I got it.
Water travels at a certain velocity. It takes a certain amount of time to get to the lift station, and it goes septic.
I got it.
Makes sulfuric acid.
I got all of that. Thanks. So my next question is, let's pretend this is $300,000 or close to it. Right now, we budgeted $100,000 a year for lift stations, whatever. We're proposing to put in $200,000 a year for lift station. This station will never be fixed unless we put $300,000 plus whatever else we need to. We'll do a little bit throughout the county. But unless we have a $300,000 commitment to this lift station, we're not going to get it done, and it's always going to be a problem. So, I mean, I'm just bringing this up to this board. This has been a costly experience for us. I think we have to fix it, and I think we have to understand when we come forward with our budget that I'm recommending that we really put the money in there to fix this station and just end this saga.
just to be clear, I think the only unforeseen part about it was the sulfuric acid dissolving the concrete. As far as the hydraulic capacity of the station and upgradability, I think all that was thought about, which the lift station, by the way, was paid for with a grant years and years ago when we did the gravity sewer system in Hudson Heights. So the grant paid for that lift station, and I think, like I said, it was designed to be upgradable, but the sulfuric acid eating the concrete. Same thing happened at the station in Medark, right?
Well, we did, the station in Medark has been replaced.
Station 4 at Surf Road.
Station 8 was the last big one, and actually the one that kicked us off using the fiberglass inserts into at Station 8 in Panacea.
So not unforeseen. There has been planning ahead, but the erosion of the concrete is what the...
And we're trying to put carbon filters on all the major
Odor
lift
control.
stations for odor controls with backup generators, which is something that we're trying to go
And you remember, I
forward on.
preached backup generators years ago.
Right, and so, I know this isn't a budget workshop, but it's an opportunity where we can speak. I'd like to propose that we dedicate $300,000 of this coming year's budget to fix this problem, and then to, because we have so much sewer infrastructure to fix, that we dedicate $200,000 a year going forward after that.
What do you have budgeted now?
Well, this is what I was going to tell you. Currently, we're advertising the environmental portion of our USDA grant. Is on, you'll see it in next week's paper. Maybe this week's paper, I'm sorry. This week's paper and then the next week's paper. That's the first part of the awarding of our grant, our USDA grant. The next, we're hoping within very shortly here, we will get our actual award. It's good that they've already noticed they've already told us to advertise the environmental assessment, which if they wasn't going to fund us, they wouldn't have asked us to do that. So therefore, as soon as that notice gets what we're going to do, then we'll know shortly thereafter what the grant match is going to be. At that point in time, what our plan is to do is to redo our pro forma for our sewer fund at that point in time, because part of this grant is it's a grant loan, is we'll be able to do away with our existing loans. We'll have to borrow. We'll have about $5 million that we'll be borrowing, and the grant will take care of the rest of it. Okay, so what we're going to do is rerun the pro forma, but also what is required out of this grant and USDA is we got to make the system functional. We got to make it financially functional. We made steps based on where we're at today to do that. What this means in the future, what we'll do is we've got to rerun our pro forma, and we'll come back to the board and say, just what you're talking about there is, that's more than likely going to change how much money we can put into lift stations. So it may take care of itself based on the customer base. But also as part of this is we are going to have to, they're going to demand that we tie on everybody that can be tied on, or either we got to account, they have to contribute a sewer base fee. So we'll be coming back to you guys with that to where everybody's fairly treated, but yet we have to come back with that to where we can get our sewer fund working correctly to where everyone is contributing that is lines in front of them. So that'll be all part of that. I know there's politics that enters into that, but still at the end of the day, that's all a part of this USDA grant program.
Just not to get too far off track. You're not talking about vacant lot
No.
readiness to serve fees. You're talking about, and I don't think there's that many people that
not
have.
that many, but there's some existing structures that haven't tied on, need to tie on.
There's
But
very
we've
few.
got to do something along those lines. But still, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at, and I use that word too much, but what I was trying to get to is we'll be redoing the pro forma, and that's going to tell us then we're anticipating, and based on what I've run so far, that we'll have money to put in to properly maintain our facilities, hopefully. But we also have to watch that revenue side.
Okay.
Motion to
Oh,
adjourn?
well, just, I'm going to be bringing back in a couple of meetings, one of the roads in our county, Harley-Davidson, just citizens have issues there, and I'll be just want to let
On
you know.
Raywinkle, isn't it?
Right, it's right across from the sheriff's office.
Do you have any more items for Commissioner Kessler?
No, thank you.
Okay.
To adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a good evening, Ralph.
You too.